Alright, so this is episode 1 of the Gamer Tour podcast. Um, we don't really know what we're doing at all. We're just figuring it out as we go along. Um, I don't know, I might have an intro by the time this goes up, or I might not. I have no fucking idea. But I guess we'll start by introducing ourselves. I'm Owen from the popular YouTube channel Jerry and Gary Incorporated.
And I'm Donovan from the same channel. I was holding in a sneeze that whole time you were doing the intro. That was brutal.
Yeah, this is going to be a gaming podcast where we talk about gaming-related things. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to talk about recent gaming news, what we've been playing, anything of note. We don't always just have to talk about gaming stuff. If we want to talk about like a show or a movie or something, we can do that too.
Right.
But every episode we're going to have one game that was recommended last episode. And since this is episode 1, we just decided one beforehand. We're going to be talking about Dark Souls Remastered later on. But for now, Donovan, have you been playing anything recently, or has there been any recent gaming news that has caught your attention?
The only thing I've been doing recently is Josh convinced me to get one of the UFC games because it was free with PlayStation Plus.
I saw you playing that the other day and it freaked me out.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. Me and Josh accidentally, without telling each other, we both made the same character, essentially, where we just only leveled up kicking power and kicking speed, so we're getting, like, we hit people in the head, like, 3 times, and they just get knocked out. And it's really fun.
That's
and
awesome.
the ragdolls in it, they're pretty funny. Like, you hit someone and their neck just, like, explodes and their head shakes a bunch.
How old is that game? Did it, like, just come out, or...?
Well, I'm playing UFC 4, and let me see. UFC 4 came out in 2020.
Okay.
And Josh is playing UFC 3, because that's what's on Xbox Game Pass.
Okay.
So, I'm pretty sure UFC 5 came out, like, last year or something. But they have pretty funny character creators, and the ragdoll's pretty fun. The gameplay is actually more fun than I thought it would be, because it works the same way Tekken does, where both your hands are square and triangle and both your feet are X and circle. But there's you throw straights if you do just the button, and then L1, L2, and R1 all change how you hit the opponent. So like if you press L2 and then attack button, it'll go for like a gut shot or like a stomach hit.
It's interesting.
And if you do L1, it'll be like a face shot or something like that. So it's interesting stuff. It's been pretty fun so far.
That's good.
What about you?
Well, I have been playing Devil May Cry, and I actually beat it last night.
Congratulations.
Or no, it was the night before last night. But yes,
You liar.
Yes, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Those games are I'm not super good at games like that, like those classic God of Wars, and I beat DMC 5, but I only beat it because I was using like the fucking gold orbs and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the first Devil May Cry is fucking hard at some parts.
It can be, yeah.
Mostly the some of the checkpoints were brutal. Because if you die and you run out of gold orbs, it just sends you to the front of the mission, which half the missions in the game are like 5 minutes long, but then some of them are like 20 minutes long, and those are the ones that have like the hard bosses and stuff in them.
Yeah, DMC 1 has really weird like level distribution, like, because like you said, some missions will be like 2 to 5 minutes, and then other ones, if you don't know where you're going, it'll take like 20.
Yeah.
And it's like... It's pretty crazy. If you think DMC 1's hard, your DMC 3 is gonna kill you.
I'm looking forward to it. I started playing Dark Souls 2 last night.
Nice.
And it's very evidently the worst one. The combat
Yeah.
feels fucking awful compared to the first one.
Everything you're saying kind of makes sense, but just so you know, you called it Dark Souls 2.
Oh shit.
Um,
I'm
I've not
losing
played
my
DMC 2 in probably 6 or 7 years myself, and that the time I played it last, I didn't beat it.
Mhm.
I've only beaten that one once. I've also only beaten DMC 1 once, but I had a lot more fun doing it, and I replay it more often. But
Yeah. Um, I was enjoying it though, despite the worse combat and stuff.
hmm
Because it's so easy. At least for those
yeah,
first few missions, it's so easy.
no,
I
the
didn't
whole
get very
game's pretty
far.
easy. The
Um,
thing about it is that it's their most boring game, partially because it's so easy, but also because it's just like it feels like it doesn't have the same enthusiasm. Like it's like they didn't want to make it almost, you know.
yeah. Um, but I got to, I think it's mission 5 where you have to fight all the tanks and stuff,
hmm
and that part
Yeah,
was like
the infested
fine.
tanks.
Yeah, that part was fine. But then after that, you fight this helicopter, and
Yeah.
you have to jump up a building while this helicopter's shooting at you.
hmm
Um, and the helicopter's super fucking weak. Like, if you just double trigger and shoot it for like 5 seconds,
Yeah.
it dies. But
Right.
while I was jumping and I got to the top and I killed it, I fell off of the center of the building and I just couldn't get back up. And I was burning to death, and it pissed me off so much, and I just closed out of the game.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that game's the thing that sucks about it is that like the way to beat it is to just double trigger and spam your gun.
Yeah. Yeah, Josh.
It's very boring.
I've been to Josh's place and watched him play it before, and yeah, all he did was double trigger and use the guns like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of it's like a bullet hell game almost. You just keep shooting.
It's a bullet hell game
Uh,
for the enemies.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Which is funny because I think Devil May Cry 3 might be like the smoothest game on the PlayStation 2.
That
Like
doesn't
honestly,
surprise me.
it's between that and like maybe like Tekken 5 or something as far as like gameplay goes. But we'll do DMC 3 at some point. Whenever you're ready to play that, we'll do an episode for it
All
because
right.
that game definitely has enough to talk about.
Hell, we might be. I assume it won't take me that long to beat 2. So.
Yeah. Well,
Did
honestly,
you-
we might just wait till you beat all the DMCs that you're planning on playing, and then we might just do a whole episode for the series.
Okay. That'd be cool.
I feel like that'd probably work better because 1 and 2 you don't have. There's not much to talk about.
Yeah. Did you you don't say it now if you did, but did you figure out if you wanted to recommend a game this episode, or did you want me to go first?
No, you can go first. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
I'm cool with doing that game.
All right. Was there any gaming news you wanted to talk about? I had a few things that I thought of.
The only news that I can think of that's interested me recently is that they finally revealed Akuma for Street Fighter 6, and he looks really fucking cool. And they also said that he's coming out on May 22nd, and they said this is the game's first like official seasonal patch. So every single character's getting buffs, nerfs, whatever, and that's really cool and really exciting. The problem is that I'm going to Combo Breaker on May 24th, and Combo Breaker has not revealed yet if they're going to use that build of the game for the Combo Breaker tournament. So I'm hoping they don't use it because I really don't want to have to play a bunch of Akumas in pools. But if they do use it, it could be fun. It just depends what all they change. There's already been some changes leaked because they have a player build in Japan Evo. So they're not allowed to record any of it though. So it's all just word of mouth basically. So there's no like validity to it really. But that's interesting. But with the reveal of Akuma, that means season 1 for Street Fighter is complete once he comes out. So I'm thinking they might tease season 2 at Combo Breaker, which I will be recording that live, and I will probably cream my pants if they do that. It'd be very exciting.
Well, I'm a huge pinball nut, and we got some pinball reveals for Pinball FX and M.
Nice.
I already told you about the Pacific Rim one, but that's the one that I'm the most excited for.
Yeah.
But they also announced a Texas Chainsaw Massacre table for Pinball M,
Oh, that's cool.
and that one looked cool because that one is kind of like the Dead by Daylight one where you play as the killer, and you just have to like kill a bunch of people. That's kind of what they're doing with that one, so that looks fun.
Right. That makes sense.
And they're also doing a TV pack that I don't remember what the other two were because I don't care. But the first one in the pack is Knight Rider, and that looks cool.
Oh, nice.
Also, speaking of pinball, I already told you about the Delta emulator and all that stuff. I've been using that a lot at work and stuff.
Yeah.
And I found this fucking Game Boy Advance game that I've never heard of, and it's called Super Mario Ball.
You've never heard of that?
No, I've never heard of that. And
I'm not even a Mario fan, and I've heard of that. I've seen it even.
It's fucking awesome. It's like a Mario game, but it's like pinball, and all the levels are like pinball levels. It's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I didn't beat it because I was an idiot and I wasn't making save states, and I got on the game one day and my save data was gone. But it was really fun. I might pick it back up at some point.
Nice.
I think they need to make more games like that, though. Like, more officially licensed titles that are just, like, pinball games.
They need to make more, like, officially licensed casual games in general.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think, like, Balatro, for instance, was such, like, a nice breath of fresh air. Because it's, like, it's just cards.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a twist to it, you know?
I just think that, like...
So many developers spend so much time making, like, the next big thing, and it's like, that's not always what you need, man.
Yeah. I've just never seen a game do that before. I've seen pinball versions of games before, like Metroid has a pinball game, but it's not like on that scale of the Mario game where it's like you can actually like travel between the levels and fight bosses and stuff.
Right.
You might be able to travel between the levels in the Metroid one, but the Metroid one wasn't as cool.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, that's about all the stuff I had to talk about.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
I saw that there was like a Dragon Ball game that got announced. Are you interested in that at all?
Oh, yeah, Sparking Zero. They announced that like a year ago, and they're finally putting out trailers for it consistently. I think it's supposed to come out sometime at the end of this year. They still haven't put a release date to my knowledge. But it's looking like it'll probably be... I don't want to say... It'll probably be objectively the best Dragon Ball game. It's hard for me to say that because Dragon Ball FighterZ is a thing, and that's still played at EVO at like a top level. So like, as far as competitiveness goes, it won't be a real game, but as far as just being a fun video game, it'll probably be the best Dragon Ball game now.
Yeah, I don't remember who was talking about it at work, but somebody was telling me about it, and it sounded like something that you would be interested in.
Oh yeah, I'm a shonen shill anyway. I'll buy any Dragon Ball game they make.
Fair enough.
But with the trailers coming out for it, it looks really good, like visually. Like they had or they didn't do it. I saw some dude on Instagram post it. They showed the last Budokai game that came out was in like 2007 or something like that. So it's old, right? And someone had posted gameplay from the trailer or the newest trailer with gameplay from the last game, like side by side with the same characters doing the same attacks and everything. And it's pretty drastic of a jump. As far as everything goes, it's really cool to see.
That's good. Someday I'll be a full-fledged Dragon Ball fan.
in 10 years.
in 10 years, in like fucking however long it takes for us to finish season one.
You know what's funny? I've been reading One Piece, and the arc I'm on right now is almost as long as the original Dragon Ball series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the original Dragon Ball series is like 130 chapters, I think, and the arc I'm on One Piece is 103 chapters. It's like Jesus Christ.
Well, should we get to Dark Souls? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not this week. I think it's been a quiet week, unless you want to talk about the Helldivers drama, but I don't think
I
either of
don't.
us are really
Yeah, I
in
don't.
that.
I don't
So
care.
yeah,
Whenever we have our Helldivers episode, we'll have to get Levi on.
yeah, that'll be great.
Well, as I said earlier, we played Dark Souls Remastered. We both are pretty familiar with Dark Souls Remastered. I've
Yeah,
beaten the game like 4 times now. I assume you've beaten it like 5, 6 times, probably.
I think with this playthrough, I just finished that's 7 or 8.
Okay. And before we talk about it, I want to know, we've both done pretty much all the content in the game. We've both fought all the bosses at some point.
Yeah,
How much did you replay? Like, how many did you do? Like a bunch of the sides. I know that you told me that you were avoiding like the painted world and stuff.
yeah, I did. I did the entire base game. I went ahead and did the DLC also.
Okay.
Um,
Did you
as
fight
far
Calamite?
as Calamite, yeah.
Okay, I didn't fight
Yeah.
Calamite.
I actually I wanted to because not that it's like a super great boss. We'll get into that later, but I wanted to do it because when I got the platinum like a month or two ago, I didn't have to fight him, so I
Mhm.
didn't. Same with Manus. So I was like, I might as well, if I'm getting the whole package, do everything. But as far as NPCs go, no, I didn't look up anything, and if there was something like, for instance, Solaire at the end of his quest line where you have to, or not Solaire, but Sigmar,
Mhm.
where at the end of his quest line you have to go save him from like the fucking weird tentacle things in Lost Izalith. It's like I didn't find that naturally, so I didn't do that quest line all the way.
Mhm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think I did any of the NPC quest lines all the way through.
Hmm.
Um, but I fought almost all the bosses. The only ones I didn't do were Calamite, Gwendolyn. Um, that might honestly be it.
I'm pretty sure the only ones I didn't do were Gwendolyn and Priscilla. Yeah, those were the only two I didn't do.
Because I did Return to Undead Asylum and I did um, Painted World.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I can't think of any other ones that I didn't fight.
I mean, most of them are. Most of the optional bosses in the game you come across pretty naturally anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. That's. I was just curious. So, the reason that I want to do like full playthroughs of these games when we recommend them is so that it's like fresh on our mind.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was just wondering which bosses you fought and which ones you didn't.
Oh yeah.
But it seems like we both didn't fight Gwendolyn, but other than that, we've that fight is
Well,
like weird enough to where
to
you can
to be
remember
fair,
that
I did
pretty
have
well.
to beat him and Priscilla to get the platinum, so they're still pretty fresh on my mind as
Okay.
far as like fighting and stuff.
Well, what was your how was your experience?
My experience was honestly, I had a lot more fun than I thought I would replaying it in the way that I did replay it.
Hmm.
Until I got to, I won't say immediately after getting the Lord Vessel, because I did have fun until a while after that. I think I did take notes on the order I did the areas, which I'll get into a little more in depth later. But the only parts of the game I really don't like are the Tomb of Giants, the Lost Izalith, and parts of the Demon Ruins.
Hmm.
Um, I think Demon Ruins and Lost Izalith was probably the last area they designed, like during the game development process, because it just feels extremely lazy.
Oh yeah, it seems very rushed. At least the
Um,
enemy placements seem very rushed.
yeah, the placements seem really rushed. There's not there. I think the only new enemies in Demon Ruins are the little dragon statues and the
The
giant centipede
Slimers from
things.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, yeah, those guys. And then once you get further into Lost Izalith, the only new enemies are the tentacle things, and then it's just a bunch of dragon statues everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks really lame. It looks like if you ever played like a flash game, like action side scroller maker on like on like Newgrounds or something. It just seemed like someone put a bunch of the same enemy in one like area, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like designing anything new or
Yeah,
doing
especially
anything.
the lava pool area, like after you beat Ceaseless Discharge, that has like all the fucking Taurus
Mm,
demons in it.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
bad.
Now, I will say, to give the area some credit, I like the idea of putting those enemies there because it's kind of like a way to show you how far you've come. Because it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know about you, but on my playthrough, two or three heavy attacks from my claymore killed the Taurus demons.
Oh yeah, I was fucking them up
Yeah,
constantly, especially
so it's
after I
like,
got the shield.
yeah, so it's like they have a really good, they had a good idea. Like I see where they were going with it, but I feel like it was just rushed. So they were just like drop, 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 like enemies all over the place, and
Yeah.
it's like I can't imagine how much better Dark Souls One would have been if it had like 3 or 4 months of development more.
Yeah, I think Dark Souls 1 had the shortest dev time out of any of their games,
It
didn't it?
did. I'm pretty sure it did.
Because they
It's
had
either
like a
that or Dark
year,
Souls Two. Yeah, it was a pretty quick turnaround.
which for the time frame they were given, I think the game is like super impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get in too much about the rest of the game, do you want to talk about your build just so that like I had
Oh yeah.
made a mention in passing about my shield, and people aren't going to know what the fuck we're talking about if we.
Yeah, so I actually I'm pretty sure I took a picture of my final stuff. But I'll talk about my build while I look for that. So I just went with a whenever we're playing these Dark Souls games for these retrospectives, um, I'm gonna play it as pretending to be blind, so it's like almost a first playthrough again. And I'm also, to the best of my ability, going to just be the box art character, basically.
Okay.
So in Dark Souls 1, I used the Elite Knight set and a Claymore and a regular medium shield. Uh, I used, I think, the Silver Kite shield for most of the playthrough, and then eventually I switched to the Grass Crest shield just because it's cool.
Yeah, and the
Um,
stamina recovery.
yeah. Um, but I used the Claymore, and then for a few areas I actually used the what's the weapon called? The little pick that you can get from Andre.
The war pick.
Yeah, the war pick. I used that for a while too, actually, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
And I'll get more into my reasoning for that later when I talk about NPCs and stuff.
Um, well, I did a dummy strength build. Um, I for most of the game, I had the Zweihander,
Mm-hmm.
and then I switched to the Demon King Great Axe once I got that from the fucking
Gaping
the
Dragon.
Gaping Dragon. Yeah. Um, I didn't write down like the names of all the shit that I use, so I got the pinwheel mask that had the stamina recovery. I don't remember which one that
The
is.
Mask of the Child.
Yes.
Child is stamina, mother is HP, and father is equip load.
Okay. So I put that on, and then for half the game I was mid rolling and just using the great axe
Mm-hmm.
with no shield for the most part.
Yeah.
Once I was able to one hand that, which was pretty far into the game, um, I started using a shield then, and then I put on Havel's set, since I wasn't going to be rolling hardly ever.
Yeah.
Um, and then I, funnily enough, bought the war pick from Andre, and then I upgraded it enough to turn it into Smo's hammer.
Nice.
So I got that, two-handed that for a while since it was like 8 more strength to one-hand that one.
Mm-hmm.
I switched to the black iron, I think it's called, set.
Yeah, Tarkus' set.
Yeah, yeah. Because that one's upgradable and it weighs a little bit less than Havel's
Yeah.
set. So I switched to that, still had the mask on. And then once I was able to one-hand Smo's hammer, I equipped Havel's shield. And it was the most fun I've ever had in that game ever.
Nice.
It was probably
Yeah, I
the most
just used,
awesome build I've ever done, too, in terms of like how it
strength
looked.
builds are pretty fun in Dark Souls 1. As far as armor goes, I used the starting knight set. Another thing I should mention about my build is there was 0 points in the game where I had a fast roll. I medium rolled through the whole game.
Yeah, that's usually
Um,
what I do in these games.
yeah. Um, so I used most of the knight set. I think I went through a decent chunk of the beginning without my helmet on because the full knight set with your weapon and shield is like a heavy roll.
Yeah.
Um, but at some point, I got my stamina up or endurance, whatever, and I was able to wear the helmet. And then eventually, once I got to the Dark Root Basin, I was able to get the Elite Knight set. And I just leveled that up throughout the game.
Nice. Yeah, I think this was the first time I ever beat a FromSoft game with a heavy roll.
Nice.
Because I usually try to avoid doing it since I often rely on the roll more than like blocking and stuff.
Right.
But no, I had a lot of fun with it. With
Nice.
that great shield.
Yeah. I should also mention I was partially a faith build, so I had like healing spells to use also,
Mm.
and I also eventually got the lightning spear, which if you don't know, if you've never used it, in Dark Souls 1, lightning spear seriously takes like 5 whole seconds to throw.
Yeah.
So I hardly ever used it, but it was still fun. So
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really used the miracles in Dark Souls 1.
the healing spells are pretty good.
Mm. I remember you told me that you had only done it at first so that you could have Homeward.
Yeah, I did it like that because the something cool about Dark Souls 1 that the other games don't do because you can warp to every bonfire is there's a little bit of like a manipulation you can do in the game where if you rest at one and then you go throughout the world and do all this stuff and that stuff, you can just homeward and then you're back to that one bonfire you needed to be, and there's some thinking. You have to really plan your routes whenever you do that, and I think Homeward Bones. I like using Homeward Bones a lot in Dark Souls 1 just
Yeah,
to make
they're
you go live a lot
definitely the
quicker.
most useful in Dark Souls 1, I think.
Yeah, but I didn't want to have to keep spending resources on buying them from merchants, and also I kept forgetting to buy them from merchants, so I only ever had like one or two in my inventory at a
Yeah.
time. So I was like, I'll just get this spell.
Yeah, one thing I noticed playing it this time, I never noticed it before because I never like thought to do it.
Hmm.
But when you warp to a bonfire, it doesn't. You don't rest at it.
No, no, you
So
don't.
if you warp somewhere, like if you rested at a bonfire where like you couldn't warp back, and you just warped
Right.
somewhere to like go to a shop or something, you could just homeward bone back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Whereas I'm pretty sure in the other games that's not how that works. Because if you were to warp to one bonfire, that considers that bonfire rested at. So
yeah,
if you'd homeward bone it, go back to that one.
and there are a
So
few exceptions. Like once you get into the painted world, like fuck you.
right. Yeah, once you get
Um,
into the painted world, the first time you get in Anor Londo, I'm pretty sure you can't.
And then I'm pretty sure I didn't try it obviously, but when Seath kills you and sends you into the prison area, I don't believe I think that counts as resting at that bonfire too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't. Yeah.
Which I mean, that would make sense because you actually died. You didn't just warp there, but
Right, yeah. So, what do you want to talk about the actual game first?
Um,
I got some talking points here if you want me to
yeah,
start.
why don't you start?
So obviously, goes without saying, this game has a very intricately designed world,
Oh, it's
um,
it's amazing.
where everything makes sense. A lot of the before I started this playthrough, I almost shit on the game because I was trying to cope with people saying it's hard to find NPCs in Elden Ring. I was like, it's hard in all the games, man. You know, you just gotta like dig super deep.
Hmm.
In Dark Souls One, that's not really true. In Dark Souls One, they do a fucking phenomenal job, at least showing you how to start NPC quest lines. Like, for instance, when you save Griggs of Vinheim in the Undead Burg basement, you save him, and then you can get the shortcut down below the staircase next to Capra Demon. You can get that shortcut that leads to the sewer, which leads back to Firelink Shrine.
Hmm.
And if you take that shortcut, Griggs is the very first person you will see on that direction to Firelink.
Yeah, NPC
It's
placement and stuff is really good.
it's great. It's really good. Speaking of NPCs, I thought it was really cool that I did almost all of Solaire's questline because he's like very easy. Like you can't miss him.
Yeah.
Um, I think the only thing is you might need to summon him once or twice to actually continue his quest line. But I thought it was really cool that he's summonable for a bunch of like mandatory bosses like the Bell Gargoyles, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And because he's the NPC most people will see the most, I think it's really fucking cool that the first boss fight that's two individual enemies being Ornstein and Smo, you summon Solaire for. So it's like a legitimate 2-on-2 with like a dude you've like grown to know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really used any of the summons, but that stuff is cool.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite NPC character in this one?
Probably Solaire.
Solaire's pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, I will say some NPCs are a little disappointing. Um, like for instance, Petrus of Thurland. He doesn't really do much. Like I like his whole quest line connected with the arena.
Yeah.
I think that quest line's really cool as a whole. I wish that once he lost his two friends in the arena, I wish he had something more to do than just pout the rest of the game. Um, Crestfallen Knight, I like his because he's like, oh, I'm gonna go handle some shit, and then the next time you find him, he's already hollow, which makes sense for his character. I wish there was just a little bit more for him though, you know.
Yeah.
But I do still like him though. I think that who else was it I was thinking of? Oh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. I can't even think of it. Oh well.
You know who my
One of the
favorite
NPCs. One of the NPCs I wish they did more with.
you know who my favorite NPC was?
Who?
Kingseeker Frampt.
Framped is awesome.
He's
Framped,
so
Framped is really
awesome.
cool.
He's like the funniest, like goofiest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
And they never really explain what the fuck he is or what like those snake things
Yeah,
are.
the King Seekers.
Yeah. And they don't show up at all in the other games, do they?
You'll have to play 3 one day.
Okay.
Uh, I remember which NPC I was going to talk about. I wish that there was a little more to patches instead of just becoming a merchant after the Tomb of Giants.
Yeah.
Uh, just because in the other games, or at least in Dark Souls 3 and in Bloodborne, he feels more relevant. Um, Especially Dark Souls 3. He's one of my favorite quest lines in 3. Um, you'll see one day.
Hmm. I
Um,
love his quest line in Elden Ring.
yeah, his quest line in Elden Ring's pretty funny. I like that he's finally in a boss fight.
Yeah. Like
That's pretty funny.
he has like a character arc if you do his quest line in Elden Ring.
All the
Like
way,
yeah,
yeah.
like he falls in love with that like girl that got turned into a snake or whatever, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
That's
once you
funny.
get down a certain path with that lady's quest line, I'm pretty sure that he gets involved and uh, he likes her.
That's awesome.
It's been a while
Yeah.
since I've done that, though, so I could be
Right.
misremembering it, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens.
Yeah. But no, the NPCs in this game are pretty fucking cool. But going back to the interconnected world, the the game has so many shortcuts where like so many games don't actually build on top of itself. So like you'll be in an area like for instance when I was in the Dark Root Basin and I found an elevator next to that one bonfire and it led to the Valley of Drakes. I've said I've beaten this game 7 or 8 times and that's to my knowledge the first time I've ever used that elevator.
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
ended up
super
finding
cool.
that one too. It is cool.
It's so refreshing to see something so thought out. Where like as in Dark Souls 2, the problem is like so many areas are just loaded. You know, like it's a box in a fucking open like realm of the game.
Yeah.
And then there's an elevator that goes in between two like the two boxes of areas. And it's like the two boxes are not actually connected at all.
Yeah. I love this game because the level design, it feels like different people were designing the world in this game than the other ones. Like
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
level design in this one feels like a Metroid game or like
Yeah,
something that you would be like exploring like a Metroid game.
right.
Like even
Like
the illusory wall placements, like they all for
mhm,
the most part make sense.
yeah.
All like the shortcuts, like none of the other FromSoft games really handle shortcuts the same way.
No.
And like to a much lesser degree on top of that too.
Right.
There's so many doors you can unlock and that lead back, and they're all useful.
Mhm.
There's so many different elevators that go different places.
Right.
The beginning of the game when you don't have the Lord Vessel is fucking brilliant because no matter where you are, there's usually not more than like a 2 minute walk if you need to go somewhere.
Yeah, if you're activating all your shortcuts and finding everything, like it's I think the longest walk before the Lord Vessel is if you choose to go back to like Firelink or Andre before you fight Quelaag.
Yeah, yeah,
And even
definitely.
then, once you have the Blighttown shortcut, that's not a long walk.
It's not a long walk, but that one is a risky one because there's a lot of annoying enemies blocking the way. And
Yeah.
those like elevators that you can fall off of and stuff.
I think it's really smart that they made the toxic dark shooters. They you only have to kill them once, and I think
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I think that's really smart because they don't respawn.
That's good.
Yeah,
That makes
so
this
I
game like one grade level better.
right now, of course, we're throughout this whole thing we're going to be talking about Dark Souls Remastered because you've never really played the original,
No,
and
I've
I
never played the
never
original.
yeah, and I never beat the original. The furthest I got was like Blighttown, which there's a reason I stopped there. The original game ran like fucking shit on the 360, so
Hmm.
Blighttown was a nightmare. So I'm glad Remastered fixed that. Um, Unfortunately, I would say Remastered is kind of disappointing in what it doesn't change. Of course, they made the matchmaking a little better. They made it to where you can play with more friends. They added the password matchmaking, which is a staple in their games now since I think Scholar of the First Sin or Bloodborne, whichever one first had that.
Hmm.
Um, and they did change a lot of textures in the game, like for walls and paintings and stuff, and shields and whatnot. So visually, it's obviously better, and of course the frame rate's better. I think, or at least it's more stable. Um, However, the fact that not much else changes other than those small matchmaking tweaks and textures, it's like that's a little disappointing, you know. For a remake that comes out 7 years after the original game, you'd
Well,
think
it's not a
they changed a
remake.
little more,
It's
or a
a
remaster. I'm sorry,
yeah.
but
I'm not surprised they didn't change a whole lot because remasters usually aren't like complete overhauls. They're usually just like a quick port of the game that
Right.
looks slightly better on because the game wasn't playable on PS4 until
That's true.
remastered, and probably like was it on PC?
It was actually people on PC got very upset about it actually because I don't remember exact. I think it's. I'm pretty sure Remastered had a really bad PC launch, which every fucking game
I
does.
see.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But the reason people were mad is because Dark Souls One on PC had a mod, or not. I don't know if it was a mod per se, or just an attachment to the game that fans had made called DS Fix, where it fixed the game and it made it run better than it was on console. And whenever DSR came out, you could no longer play original Dark Souls on Steam. You just had
Okay.
remastered. So
I hate when they do that.
yeah, um, but yeah, I do think that if Dark Souls ever got the same treatment Demon Souls did, and it gets a legitimate like remake, I think it'll jump quite a bit on my list because then it would give them a chance to kind of fix Lost Izalith and some other shit and
Yeah,
even
revamped
with
Lost Izalith would be really cool.
yeah, even with this being a remaster, I did still run into a lot of audio glitches where like I'd kill an enemy and like no sound would happen, lighting glitches,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
really really weird stuff that didn't matter that much, but
yeah.
just strange.
I had a few ones that like scared the shit out of me. Like I would smack someone and then my hammer would make like a noise and it scared the
Yeah,
fuck out of me.
yeah. So I had a question for you. You've beaten Demon Souls once or twice, right?
I have only beaten Demon Souls the one time that we did co-op on it.
Okay. So you may not have too much to say about this then, but I just had a question. What do you think Dark Souls 1 legitimately did worse than Demon Souls in?
Um,
And to give you a moment to think, I'll go ahead and say my main point I wanted to get with that is I think somehow, some way, they shit the fucking bed when it came to gimmick or like more puzzle based fights in Dark Souls 1 compared to Demon Souls. Because in Demon Souls, you had shit like real simple puzzle fights like the Adjudicator, where it's like if you notice the weak point's the head, you can just stay on the upper rafting and just throw shit at it or use
oh yeah.
spells. Shit like that.
I don't
And
consider that a
then,
gimmick fight though.
I mean, it's not necessarily, but I what I'm getting at is that things like obviously Bed of Chaos are really bad. Um,
Oh yeah, definitely.
what else? What else was it? It was uh, I think Centipede Demon fucking kind of blows.
Yes, yes it does.
Um, I I either wish the AI for that fight was better, or I wish that the starting platform was bigger.
Yeah.
Because I actually clipped it. I can send you a clip later. Whenever I fought Centipede Demon on my playthrough this time around, you know how he has that one attack where he just charges up and just like lunges his main piece like super far ahead?
Yeah.
He used that like 6 or 7 times before he ever took a
The
step.
yeah, the same thing happened to me the first like two
It's
times I fought him.
it's
And it
incredibly
was yeah,
frustrating.
it was
And
frustrating for me
the
because I was heavy rolling.
yeah, and what sucks about that move too, I don't know if you noticed, the hitbox for it lingers way after the animation stops.
Yeah.
So if his centipede part like is stuck in the wall before he pulls it back, and you try to walk over to hit it, you'll just take damage and like fly backwards.
Yeah.
Um,
To be fair,
but I
that
think
fight does get a lot better once you get to like the bigger platform though.
yeah, I was gonna say a quick way, for example, to fix that fight. To maybe obviously they can't take inspiration from their later games, but they do stuff like this in their later games where you can get an item to help with the boss fight before the boss fight. since you can already see Centipede Demon before you fight the Demon Fire Sage, and he's on like that ledge by the bonfire,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really cool if you notice that and you're like, oh, there's an enemy here, and if you swung at it, then you could get the orange charred ring before the fight starts.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be a really cool and easy fix for that boss fight.
Or if it like modified the boss fight, so it like made him drop down and like one of his heads fell off or something.
Yeah, that could be easy. Where it's like that's an easy balance fix where you can get the ring before the fight starts, but now when you enter the fight, instead of it just being him, it'll be him and then one of the small centipedes since you cut that part off.
Yeah.
Just something like that to make the fight feel more like, I don't know, to just bring it to another level, I guess.
Yeah, it's
as
like
far as like
it's like turning that lever before you get to like the Dragon Slayer or whatever in Dark Souls 2.
yeah, the Dragon Rider.
Yeah.
It's or like how in Elden Ring, there's a lot of items you can get to like help pacify boss effects or shit like that. But I think the game could really benefit from that. Let's see. I think what else does it do worse than Demon's? I don't think it does much worse than Demon's Souls,
No.
to be honest.
Because most of the stuff that they changed, like the healing items and stuff, I like the healing items in Demon's Souls, but honestly, I think that this game does the Estus flasks the best in like any of their games.
Yeah, I think it's I go both ways with it. Really, I go all three ways with it, with the consumables instead of key items for healing, and also the kindling versus the Estus shards.
Yeah.
I like all three of them. I think they all three work in the games that they're used in.
Definitely. I like the consumable items. It's just that when you have something like that as your healing thing, that means that, like in Bloodborne also, like those vials,
Yeah.
if you make your healing thing a consumable, then you're just going to make like players have to grind them out at some point.
Right.
Or I
See,
mean,
now,
like you don't have to, but people are going to want to grind them out.
right. See, now I think that is. I've been saying this for years. I've had this exact conversation with a million people. I think that is a user error. Obviously, there are some cases where you're going to get stuck on something and you're going to run out of shit to use. That's happened to me once, I think, playing Bloodborne. I don't think it ever happened to me playing Demon's Souls. But it just adds a level to your currency management where it's like, oh, I could level up now, or I could buy 30 more healing things. Which one's more important in the long run,
Yeah, not to get too off track with this discussion, but that's actually something I really like about Devil May Cry 1, is the consumables and stuff in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Because that game seems to be a lot more dependent on consumables than the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, just because there's less actual combat options.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, we'll do DMC at some point. But I think the Essence Shards versus the Kindling works really well in the games that they're all in, because it's like Dark Souls 1 gives you the freedom to be like, oh, this area fucking sucks. Let me get 20 Essence Shard or Essence Flasks.
Yeah.
Or like if it's a small bonfire, like obviously like for instance the bonfire right by the Sunlight Warrior pedestal or the statue, why would you ever kindle that one? You don't have to.
Yeah.
Unless you just wanted to.
Well, it's like you made the same point about all the boss bonfires too. It's like I don't think that you're meant to kindle them. It's just that it's a bonfire, so like
Right.
it's gonna give you the option to, even though
Yeah,
you'd
of
be a
course.
fucking idiot if you did.
Right. But I think that's cool. And then I think in Dark Souls 2 and 3 with the Estus Shards, it's cool because it adds a level of like, oh, finally, yes, let's go, I found one.
Yeah.
You know? Not so much in Dark Souls 2 because of the life gems and stuff. I do think, not to get too off track, I think it's cool that Dark Souls 2 has both.
Yeah, it is cool.
But as far as Dark Souls 1 goes, the kindling is really nice. And this is the first time I've ever beaten this game, and I've done Pinwheel before I got the Lord Vessel. And I had a lot of fun doing it because when I started the game, before I got the Claymore on the Drake Bridge, that's when I bought the War Pick. As soon as I got to Entree, I was like, I've never used this. I've never seen anyone use this. Sounds fun. I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, since it's a pick, it does thrust damage. And I found out that, obviously, that does extra damage to skeletons. And
Oh, okay.
if you talk to, which NPC was it? Let me see. I wrote it down somewhere, I think. Where did I write it? Oh. Okay, yeah. So if once you beat the Moonlight Butterfly and you go back to Andre with the Ember, you can now make divine weapons. And before you go to the skeleton area, if you talk to, I think either the Crest, I can't remember if the Crestfallen Warrior says it or if Andre says it when you give him the divine thing. One of them tells you that if you have a divine weapon, skeletons will be forever killed. So I made my War Pick divine, and I used that for both the Tomb of the Giants and the area before. What's it called? The Catacombs. And it was really fun to do that because I didn't have to worry about the skeletons respawning. And I found that out naturally through talking to NPCs.
So they actually just don't respawn if you kill them with a
No,
divine
they don't.
weapon? That's fucking
They don't.
awesome. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to replay the game with a divine weapon at some point. Because I
But like I
fucking
said, it's-
hated the catacombs and stuff on this
Yeah.
playthrough.
No, this is the most fun I've ever had playing the Catacombs. And because the NPCs told me that, I was like, oh, well, I now have the tool to do that. I found the skeletons earlier in the playthrough and they were respawning. Now I can go back. So the game's pretty fucking cool in Oh, no. Okay, I did write it down. Here it is. So I had done after I beat the Moonlight Butterfly, I went and did Blighttown and Quelaag and all that shit. And after Quelaag, I went to after Quelaag, I had the green shards from the slugs in Blighttown, and I was able to actually make the divine weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who tells you that the divine weapon kills skeletons is Domhnall in the depths. So if you go that way naturally and you find him, he'll just mention that if you talk to him.
Which one is
So
he?
he's the dude that has the Helm of the Wise and like the brass set.
Okay.
He sells lightning pine resins.
Okay.
He's right before the door to the Blighttown.
That's right, okay, I remember.
But it's really cool because you talk to him and you're like, okay, well now I know that for later. And then if you go past him to Blighttown, then you get green shards to use for divine weapons. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But I enjoyed that a lot, doing that with the catacombs. It made it a lot more fun. Because even if the sorcerer... I'm pretty sure if you don't use the divine, you have to kill the sorcerer, and then they don't respawn, right?
Once you kill those guys, the skeletons don't get back up after you kill them. Yeah.
Right. But the divine weapon just permanently takes them out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's really cool. But after that, I used the Claymore for the rest of the game.
That's awesome that you can play this game like 4 times and still not know stuff like that.
Yeah. It is pretty nice.
So, I assume that at some point you had a dip in enjoyment after receiving the Lord Vessel.
Yes. So here is exactly what I did after I got the Lord. Let's see. So I got that. So the first thing I did once I got the Lord Vessel was I went back to New Londo, because earlier in the game I went to New Londo and I eventually talked to the key bearer of the lift or whatever, or the door.
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to fuck off and get the Lord Vessel. So since I talked to him earlier, I got the Lord Vessel, I was like, I know I need to go talk to him, so I'll go talk to him. And I did, and once I talked to him, he said I needed to go talk to, or I needed to go find Artorias so that I may walk the abyss. Um,
Oh yeah, he
and he
asked you to
gave,
like learn from him, like find him and learn from him the
yeah, the ways to walk the abyss,
yeah.
which is really cool. And then once he gives you the key to the lift after talking to you, or the key to the whatever, uh, you can do that, and then you can continue to explore New Londo, and you find the large Ember Shard. That makes you go back to Andre, which if you haven't bought it already, that is where you get the Crest of Artorias.
Mm-hmm.
So the game very clearly kind of nudges you in the direction. They're like, hey, you need to find Artorias. Hey, here's Ember. Go talk to Andre. Oh, wait, Andre has Crest of Artorias. Boom. If you haven't done that already, now you can.
Yeah,
And
it's very
I really
well
like
done.
that. I thought it was annoying when I started the playthrough, but I actually really like that the Crest of Artorias costs like 20,000 souls. Because it's like, when I went back to that area in this playthrough, it's actually, the NPCs in there are pretty tough. Like,
Yeah,
they hit pretty hard. And there's a lot of them, too.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
uh,
that's Ratchet and Clank leveling. There is giving you a
right.
price to cap you off to make you
Yeah.
go and get better shit before you buy
Yeah.
it.
But I thought that was really cool that the game kind of naturally told you, like, hey, uh, go. You've already talked to this guy. Go to A to B to C to D. All that stuff, and then you can eventually go back. Um, Something else though. I don't know if you knew this. The Four Kings have the most health in the game by almost twice as much as the next boss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually, out of my own curiosity, I took on all the bosses from the wiki. I wrote down their HP and how many souls you get for killing them, so I can kind of get a general idea of how the game wanted you to do it. Um, and it's kind of interesting because as far as HP and Soul's Gain goes, you can do the DLC pretty much anytime after you get the Lord Vessel, and you'll be pretty well on pace with like
Yeah.
the rest of the game.
Yeah, the DLC
Um,
was surprisingly easy this time around for me.
yeah. Um, yeah, the game's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you: the only two bosses that have the exact same HP are the Centipede Demon and Sif.
That's weird.
It's very weird. They also give the same amount of souls, 20,000. So, or 40,000, I mean. Um,
Sif feels a lot weaker than the Centipede Demon.
he does, but he isn't.
She.
I'm sorry. Another fun fact for you: the Gaping Dragon actually has more health than Gwen.
That I guess that makes sense. The Gaping Dragon is a fucking useless pile of shit, though. So
Yeah, yeah, it is.
I
I thought that
still
was.
I still stand by that the Gaping Dragon is the easiest boss in the game.
I don't blame you for that.
I mean, Pinwheel probably is like actually easier because I don't think I got hit by him, but
Yeah, Pinwheel has definitely one of the lower HP pools.
yeah, I
Um,
ran up to him with my fucking Smo hammer and I killed
mhm.
him in like 3 hits before he even fucking did anything.
Nice. Yeah, some of the bosses might surprise you as far as how much HP they have,
Hmm.
because Seath actually has the second most HP in the game, which that makes sense. All the dragons, all two dragons have a lot of health.
Yeah.
Um, but Nito, he also has less health than the Gaping Dragon. Um,
That
Not
makes
by
sense.
much.
That makes sense because he's a fight where you have to fight a bunch of little enemies too.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. The um, the Taurus demon actually has more health than the Capra demon, but with the dogs, the total HP pool of that boss is more.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. The Bell Gargoyles actually have more health than Pinwheel, also. So Pinwheel does have a ridiculously small health pool. Um, what else was I gonna? I was gonna mention something here. Both the Demon Fire Sage and the Stray Demon have way more health than you'd probably think. Um, the Stray Demon has more HP than every other boss except Seath and Four Kings in the Demon Fire Sage.
He's the one that's at the bottom of Undead Asylum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't
And
surprise
then
me.
the Demon Fire Sage actually has the second most HP in the game, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Actually, I think Calamite. I didn't write down the DLC, but I think Calamite does have more health than them. But yeah,
The more you know.
the more you know. I thought that was neat, though.
It is neat.
So, I had one more question about just the like the basis of the game for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could change one mechanical thing, like as far as the actual gameplay goes, not like make a weapon better or like make a shortcut better, what gameplay design aspect would you change if you had to pick one?
I would take the rolling from like all of their games after this
Yeah.
one and put it into this game.
Yeah,
And maybe-
that's the obvious one.
And maybe make the lock on a little like not as bad, but the lock on is honestly bad in all their games, so
It is. No, I agree with the rolling thing though. I think it's so weird. That seems like such a backwards thing to do. Like I feel like that's something they could have fixed and remastered.
yeah, because that's something that they really fixed in Demon Souls.
Yeah. I think that even from Demon Souls to Dark Souls 1 original, that should have been something they probably thought of.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, the rolling in Dark Souls 2 isn't much better. It's definitely
No.
better.
Yeah.
Despite the, like, agility bullshit.
Yeah.
But the
You
actual,
don't-
like, directional rolling feels better.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you have full like freeform dodging until Bloodborne.
Yeah. Well, I think that, like, coding-wise, I don't think that there is freeform dodging in the games before, like, Dark Souls 2. I think that it's, like, down, right, up, left, and then,
No,
like,
no, no.
in
It
between
it
them.
definitely is. There's only so many directions you can go.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, but I think that's something Dark Souls 1 suffers from is that they built it almost as if it was more of an RPG than it is. Like for instance, a lot of enemies, I'm pretty sure all the enemies just stay still until you interact with them.
Yeah.
Which that's not a big deal, but it definitely makes the world seem less lively.
I don't know. I feel
And
like
then-
that's something that most of their games do.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking that.
And then the ranged enemies are the only ones that, like, start shooting at you, like, from really far away.
Right. And then the rolling thing that feels like a not an oversight, but I feel like they weren't. I feel like they didn't know what these games were going to become.
Oh, definitely.
And like, because they definitely deviate more into the action, like not character action, but like action RPG genre, as opposed to just being RPG, where it's like slower paced and stuff. I think the DLC for Dark Souls 1 is what really started that, where they kind of picked up the pace and like made things a little faster.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, this game kind of just feels like Ocarina of Time, but with full RPG mechanics, like leveling and stuff.
mhm.
Like the gameplay feels very similar to Ocarina of Time in terms of like the locking on and attacking and like dodging
Okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I know that you've probably never played Ocarina of Time.
No, I
but,
have not.
the way that you navigate the world is also kind of similar to Ocarina of Time. I've never beaten Ocarina of Time.
I think
but-
I've heard that comparison before, though, so I believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, this game definitely is a product of the time where, like, if they made this game today, they definitely would have ironed out, like, the rolling and stuff.
For sure. Which I going back to why I said remastered is disappointing. I feel like, them having finished the trilogy and Bloodborne being out, they could have fixed the rolling.
Yeah. Although, on a certain level, I appreciate, like, when people remaster games that they're trying to go for, like, the definitive experience of what it was like when it first
Right.
came out.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's like it's one of those things where it would literally only be a quality of life change, but people it's Dark Souls, so people would complain about it.
Yeah.
It's not like the Shadow of the Colossus remake where it's like the only things they changed was they made it better.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no complaints about that game. Yeah. Did you have any things you wanted to bring up?
Well, let's go back to after receiving the Lord Vessel.
Mm-hmm.
My enjoyment of the game did drop quite a bit during that portion.
Oh yeah.
There were parts that I was having fun. While Izalith is like a really lazy area and the enemy placements are just like the laziest fucking thing in the world, because it was rushed.
Right.
I do not mind that area. I actually had a lot of fun exploring the ruins and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like even before a Bed of Chaos, like that whole like stone area, I had fun running around there.
I should mention I don't hate that area. I like going through it. I just think it's the laziest built area.
Yeah. What's the name of it? The Duke's Archive. I like that area.
I like it also. I think that the spiraling staircase or the rotating staircase, I think that's kind of an illusion to make the area seem longer or bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Which it's not a problem. It's just something I noticed. You know?
Yeah. The staircases were a little bit annoying because unless you know exactly where you're going, it's easy to get like confused about like where you are and like what floor you're on and stuff.
Yeah.
I really did not like Tomb of the Giants.
Yep. Nope. It's terrible.
This is the first time, I think, because you can get the skull lanterns off of drops from the necromancer guys in the catacombs.
Which I actually did.
I've always gotten one of those before going into that area. This time around, I did not have one. And that area is so fucking impossible to walk around. I fell to my death probably like 5 times before I found a skull lantern.
Yeah.
That was really frustrating.
Yeah, I think the Tomb of Giants is the only like genuinely bad area in the game because it feels like they don't want you to be there.
Yeah.
Which lore-wise, that makes sense. But this is a video game. I want to enjoy it. You know.
Yeah, there's enemies around every fucking corner. And even with the lantern, you can't see that much better. You can see like a few feet in front of you.
I think my problem with it is, one, the lantern is such bullshit. I wish they would have just had you have a torch like in all the other games.
Yeah.
One, because the lantern hardly lights up the compared to how the torch works in the other games. Also, since it's the skull lantern, the lore of it like only helps in Nito's domain. So like you can't use it to light up other areas, not even in the catacombs. It doesn't work in the catacombs.
Yeah.
Like, just give us an actual light source, please.
There might be a spell that you can use that casts light.
There might, I think there might be a miracle. I know there is in the other games. But that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, just give us a torch. Another thing I fucking hate about the Skull Lantern is that, they give you these giant fucking enemies in the Tomb of the Giants, and you have to have it on one of your hands.
Yes.
So you're either not attacking the skeletons, or you're not blocking their attacks.
Yes.
One of the two. You have to sacrifice something for the lantern, which is really fucking frustrating.
It is.
Because they hit like a truck.
Yeah. And once you, like... It's such a process. I just ended up running through it at the end of it, but...
No, for sure. Tomb of the Giants is the only area in the whole game I did not explore.
Yeah. But, like, it's such a process if you want to actually, like, go around that area the way they probably wanted you to. Yeah. Because you have to, like, you know, walk forward, then you see, like, somebody's eyes or something, and then you're, like, inching closer to not, like, get their attention yet because you've got the lantern out. and
Yeah.
you're like looking to see like where the footing is and everything, so you don't fall off a fucking cliff.
Yeah.
And only then can you swap to your either shield or weapon that you had in the other hand, or just double hand your weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can fight the person. And then
Right.
10% of the time an enemy that you didn't see will walk up behind them and like start attacking you because they noticed that you were beating up their friend.
No, I think that area would have benefited greatly from one of two things. Either having enemies much more spaced out, so it was like more creepy almost, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not so worried about getting gang fucked, but you're worried like which corner is the next enemy going to be because it's been a while since you've seen one, you know?
Yeah.
I think it also would have been cool if at some point you could light like a giant bonfire somewhere and light up most of the area. I think that would have been cool, or just something to illuminate it, like how
like
for instance,
the torch sconces in like Dark Souls 2.
exactly shit like that. I think that would have been pretty cool. Like instead of the skull lantern, give us like a consumable that can light torches or something. Or like just really big of the glowing stones, prism stones.
Yeah.
Just give us big ones of those. You know, that'd be a lot cooler,
Now,
or at least more useful.
Did you try this? Like, did you try using your divine weapon on the enemies in the Tomb of the Giants? Does that also make them not come back?
I did try it. At that point, my +4 divine weapon did not do as much damage as my claymore, so I stopped using it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because I was less concerned about them respawning and more concerned about actually killing them in the first place.
Fair enough.
So, because I could have used it, but the problem with the weapon was I had to two-hand it to kill him in like 3 or 4 hits.
I see.
So it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I eventually gave up and just ran past everything anyway. So.
Yeah. I bet that
which
the
is
area
really
isn't,
unfortunate.
I bet the area isn't that bad if you have a good divine weapon, but like what circumstance are you going to have a really fucking good divine weapon? And
Right. Well, the thing about it is I'm pretty sure... Well, I know for a fact divine weapons only go to +5, and I had a +4 war pick when I went there.
Oh, Jesus.
But the thing is, you can advance divine into occult. I'm sure occult does the same thing divine does.
Oh, okay.
However, I'm pretty sure you get the occult one from later in the Tomb of the Giants. I could be wrong, actually. I'm going to look that up, actually, really quick. Because I feel like that's not right. That feels stupid if it is.
Yeah, that would be stupid, because it's like the last place you would use it in.
Right. Okay, no, it's you get that from the ember found in the Painted World. So.
Okay.
So you can do it.
That makes sense, because I think I found that.
Yeah. That explains why I did not, so.
You're stupid.
That's okay. But Tomb of the Giants is actually the first thing I did after 4 Kings, once I got the Lord Vessel. Because, like I said, the first thing I did when I got the Lord Vessel was go to New Londo, since I was told by the NPC there to come back when I had it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, the 4 Kings fight is okay. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I beat it first try. I didn't hate it.
Four Kings is just one of those fights where like you can just have terrible luck with it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like it's a DPS test basically.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Because if you don't kill them fast enough, they're just gonna keep spawning, and then you're gonna get fucked.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the way it works too is that obviously each one of them has their own health pool.
Mm-hmm.
That's on their health bar above them. But if let's say you do like however much damage with your single hit, if the 4 King that you're attacking has 1 HP, it'll obviously kill him, but any damage over will still do the total health bar. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a good design.
Yeah, I actually only had to fight 4 Kings on my fight.
Same actually. I wish that the timer, I don't know if I wish it was a little longer, but the first time I fought them, I was not two-handing my sword, and I was just using my shield and, one-handing it. And I got hit by the grab attack that they have twice in a row because it has an insanely huge fucking hitbox.
Yeah, that grab is
and
bullshit.
I feel like a lot of attacks in Dark Souls 1 linger longer than you think, so that can kind of screw you over. But not to get too far into that, whenever I got hit by those two grab attacks in my first attempt, I got so far behind that I eventually had 4 or 5 of them at the same time.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was terrible. Because once a second one spawns, you have now lost half of your time to attack.
Yeah.
And you have to be more defensive. And it just percentage goes down every time another one spawns. And it's a steamroll.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen more than 2 of them out at a time.
It is fucking terrible.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But if you fight them when you're supposed to, it's not, and you don't have terrible luck like that, it's not bad.
Yeah.
I
think they're probably the easiest of the Lord bosses, honestly. Seath is pretty fucking easy, but... And I guess Nito's easy too, but the thing is he's got minions running around his area.
See, now, the thing about that is that if you use a divine weapon, his minions also don't respawn.
That's true. But did you use a divine weapon?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Oh,
okay. At some point, I think I think I did it when I went to the catacombs for the first time with my divine weapon. Because at that point, I'd pretty well determined I'm going to use the claymore the rest of the playthrough. So I just reorganized my weapon inventory and put the war pick and the claymore at the top of my thing, so it's easier to switch. So yeah, when I fought Nito as a boss, I fought him, and then whenever he'd summon his minions, I'd run around the giant thing in the center until the minions and me were alone, and then I'd kill them with the
nice.
war pick. Yeah, it actually made the fight more interesting. Because I was able to do that, and not just pussyfoot around the skeletons the whole time.
I honestly didn't have that much. I did die to Nito once because he kept using his sword move where he puts it in the ground and it stabs you. And I was getting swarmed. But the second time I fought him, I just immediately killed the 3 skeletons that run towards you, and then I just hit him 6 times and he died.
Yeah.
So yeah, that fight seems like one that's, if you get unlucky, can be really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know the stuff about the divine weapons though, so I'll definitely have to take that into account the next time I play the game.
Yeah, it definitely made everything but the Tomb of the Giants more entertaining, or more. It was just a more fun experience.
Yeah.
After I fought 4 Kings and then Nito, that's when I went to Duke's Archives, and that leads me into Crystal Cave, which I want to talk about because same deal with Lost Izalith. I like some of the ideas with it. I think it just wasn't executed very well. I think a lot of the platforms in that area, not even the invisible ones, but just some of the crystal ones, have such weird footing to them.
Yes, they are very slippery.
And I wish that the enemy placements weren't so obviously it's an end game area. It's one of the last areas I did. So it's going to be hard. Mm-hmm. I feel like that obviously it's not as bad as Tomb of the Giants. But I think it's somewhere between Tomb of the Giants and Lost Izalith. How bullshit.
The thing is with Crystal Cave is that you can pretty much just run past all those guys with no issue as long as you have an idea of where you're going.
You can, but if you're playing the game blind,
yeah,
it's pretty brutal.
It is. I died quite a few times in the Crystal Cave actually because I did try to fight all the crystal guys.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
You know the most bullshit part of that area is?
Is it the clams before Seath?
Yes, the clams can get into the boss area.
Yes, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And those guys are they're not super tough, but they took a few hits from my hammer to kill.
Yeah.
And they're just running around fucking being a menace while Seath is doing shit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I wish I think that wouldn't be a problem if there was only like 3 of them in front of the fight, but there's like 6
Yeah.
or something. It's ridiculous. Uh, I feel like that's another case of kind of lazy placement because that's the only part of the game they're in is right before Seath.
Yeah.
So it's like I wish like maybe earlier in the cave. Part of me wishes the cave was a little bigger, to be honest.
Yeah, I wish there was like a bonfire after you got to the bottom of it, honestly.
Yeah, because the cave, it's a cool design. I like the idea of there just being crystals everywhere from Seath's experiments and shit. But I wish that I wish it was a little bigger.
Yeah.
Like if they could have made like a whole, not a whole new area, but something about as big as Tomb of the Giants. That would have been nice.
Yeah, if they had something more after the whole crystal, like, walkthrough segment of it, like, if once you got to the bottom, you had to go through, like, a more regular area that was just the crystal, like, aesthetic that had those enemies and stuff in it.
That'd be cool. That'd be pretty
and then
cool.
they could put a bonfire down there so you don't have to walk across all the fucking crystals again.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
They could even make it warpable, those bastards.
You know what else I wish? I just thought of this now. Since they have the skull lantern for the Tomb of the Giants, I wish that there was an item or a ring even that you could use to see the invisible walkways.
See, the invisible walkways were never a problem for me because I think that the like snow shit falling on it, I think that does its job pretty well.
I think so too, to an extent.
I
just think
there's some of them where it doesn't fall like directly where you like can see it.
Right.
But I don't know. That stuff never bothered me too much. It would be cool if there was an item you could shine that like revealed parts of the bridge and stuff, but
right. But I don't hate that area. I don't like it though.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely the worst part of the Duke's Archive.
Yeah, while we're talking about Seath and his area, did you notice that Seath's theme sounds like it's straight out of like Planet of the Apes?
No, do you remember when we were doing our playthrough? I said that the music sounded exactly like the Count Dooku theme in episode 2.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that.
It's funny.
But next after this, listen to Seath's theme. It sounds like Planet of the Apes.
Which Planet of the Apes?
It sounds like it would have been in the 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
Original, not reboots. But after I did Seath, that's actually when I revisited Asylum. I did it like as the second to last thing I did in the game, because I forget what I was doing. I think I was going to Andre to buy Titanite shards so I could finish leveling up my armor with the souls I just got from Seath.
Mm-hmm.
And, or not finish leveling them up, but you know what I mean. And when I went up the ladder, that's when I noticed there is an item on the rooftop above Petrus. And that's when I was like, oh, how can I get there? And I got off of the elevator and I explored. Obviously, I already knew you could do this.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to imagine what it would be like not knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think them putting the asylum key on top of that roof is the only reason anyone ever found it.
Yeah.
Because obviously if there's an item, you're supposed to be able to get there. And that's the only way that really makes sense to get there is by getting onto that one platform. So I went to the asylum and did that. And then after that's when I did Lost Izalith and I eventually did Kiln.
Mm-hmm. All of the like hidden stuff, like all the areas that you would think normally like you can't get up there and stuff. I think that stuff was handled really well in this game.
I agree.
I remember I don't remember any specifics, but I know that there's a few areas in some of the other games where like, okay, how the fuck was I supposed to like see that? Like those stupid fucking doors that you have to press the interact button in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
Like, since when do you do that? Since when do you just press the interact button on walls that look exactly like the same walls around you?
Right. Well, it's actually funny you say that, because Dark Souls 2 is the easiest one to find illusories for. because the walls actually don't look the same.
Well, but this one's not an illusory wall though. This one's like
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that those walls actually do have different textures. You have to know what they look like.
The one that
though.
I'm talking about doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that's the DLC one in the like dragon area or whatever.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the finding secret stuff in Dark Souls 1. Like, it's really cool that when you get to Darkroot Basin, that bonfire by the Crest of Artorias, it's really cool that you can see that bonfire behind the wall. And it's like, if you don't think to hit the wall, 2 minutes later, you find a tree that's blocking a path you can hit to break it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe I should go back and try hitting stuff over there. Boom, illusory wall. Now that opens up a whole fucking new idea to your game. Hey, if I ever see something behind a wall that I can't get through, just hit it. And it'll fucking disappear.
It's so Metroid. It makes me fucking happy inside.
Yeah. It's really cool. And of course they have the player messages and stuff. And I like I told you, I watched a video, this guy was talking about the Seek Guidance spell. And there's developer messages for every illusory wall. So, if you have Seek Guidance.
Yeah.
So that's cool that they did that. As like a failsafe. Like if anyone actually used that spell at the right spot.
Yeah. I'm starting to pick up through this discussion, like, they kind of thought of everything. It's just that not all of it is stuff that you're going to be doing on one playthrough. Like the divine weapons, Seek Guidance, like all that shit.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an RPG more than the other games, for sure.
Yes.
So yeah, after all that stuff, did Lost Izalith. We've already talked about Lost Izalith, and then Kiln of the First Flame, man. They have made Dark Souls 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring since Dark Souls 1. And none of the final areas have come close to Kiln of the First Flame, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kiln is so cool.
It is so fucking cool.
That staircase with, like, the ghosts walking across it, it's so fucking cool.
It's so cool. Fun fact, I got curious in my playthrough. Did you know you can fall off that staircase and die?
I did not. I've never tried it. That doesn't surprise me, though.
Yeah, it made me laugh. Even though it's obvious that would happen. But no, Kiln of the First Flame is awesome when you first walk down the staircase and the whole landscape is in view for you and the words pop up, Kiln of the First Flame, and you're like, oh shit, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really cool. Especially with Gwendolyn, or not Gwendolyn, but Guinevere earlier in the game talking to you, like, please succeed my father.
Yeah.
And, you know, all that stuff. It's really cool how the story builds upon itself leading up to that moment.
Kiln is also such a cool area because, like, it's not that big. It's a pretty straightforward path just to the final boss. There's a few enemies, and they're, like, they would be really tough enemies, but you've faced so many greater threats than that.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire game. So, like, the first time you can encounter one of those guys is, like, Undead Berg.
Yeah.
And they're fucking tough.
Right. Yeah.
And now you're, like, kicking their ass.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, yeah, it was awesome. There's not, like, a ton of, like, explorable stuff in there. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. But just the tone of that area, it's so awesome.
And then you walk into the boss fight and it has the piano.
Yeah, Gwen's theme is still my favorite boss theme in any of their games.
It's amazing, yeah. But no, I think that clears it. I don't think that Gwen... It's a great final boss, but I think they learned so well from their own games that, like, every other game's final boss, for the most part, is better.
Yeah, the thing about Dark Souls is that it's not really going for, like, the, like, big, bombastic, like, great boss fights. It's more going for, like, story and, like, the... Yeah. Like when you see his name pop up and it's like Lord of Cinder, like that's awesome. That's awesome that he's called Lord of Cinder.
Yeah.
And the music and everything.
That's something that Dark Souls 1 really takes after Demon Souls 4, is how they prioritize kind of the lore of the bosses over having these awesome like spectacle things, you know? Whereas they still keep the story important throughout all their games, of course, but at some point it's like, oh, how can we one up Artorias?
Yeah.
Oh, how can we one up Fume Knight? Oh,
Well,
how can we one up the one from Bloodborne? Like all this stuff.
It's like nobody remembers. Well, I'm sure some people remember them because of the actual fight, but what you take away from the fights in this game is not the actual fight for the most part. It's like, oh, that character was cool, or like that enemy was cool. Like there's like an opening cutscene usually, and like the fighting in this game just isn't on par with the newer games.
The combat in this game actually, like, dare I say, sucks.
Or not even the combat. The combat's pretty similar to the other ones, but the enemy combat, like the way that the enemies are designed,
the enemy interaction, sucks.
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing. It works really well for this game.
Yeah, because like we said earlier, it's kind of a slower RPG compared to the rest of the games.
Yeah, and that's why I like it so much. This is still probably my favorite one of their games, except for Sekiro. After this playthrough,
it's pretty good.
Because I prefer the slower, like methodical, like exploration stuff than like the like breakneck combat and like and I love that stuff in like Elden Ring and stuff, but there's something about this game that is just so magical.
I think something that Dark Souls 1 has over any of their other games is that it feels like it has the same feeling you get when you watch like Neverending Story, where it's like just pure fantasy, you know. There's no stupid shit. Like there's a lot of goofy cartoonish shit in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
And then Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring is like, it's too fast paced to really focus on just how cool everything kind of is.
Yeah.
You know. Or not how cool, but like how wondrous. You know.
Well, and one thing I noticed, I didn't get very far in Dark Souls 3, but one thing I noticed was that, like, first boss, Gundyr, was fucking great. Well, it was, like, already one of the better bosses I've fought in a Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
But then, like, the areas after that are, like, kind of generic. Like, there's not really, like, level design that, like, sticks out. Yeah. Like something like Undead Burg with like all the layouts of like the staircases and stuff.
Right.
It just feel the later games feel more like generically designed in terms of like levels and like item placements, or not specifically item placements, but like the way that everything is laid out feels more generic in the newer games. Even Elden Ring to some extent.
Sure. Yeah.
It feels more like a modern game. As far as that stuff goes,
yeah.
Like the levels are there as dressing to the combat, whereas in this one, the combat is in service of this gigantic world that you're exploring and these like cool enemies that you're fighting. The combat's not what's fun about it. What's fun is the experience
in the exploration.
Yeah.
To add on to that, I think a button on that is that in Dark Souls 1. There's this whole area you have, and then at the end of exploring the area, you are rewarded with a boss.
Yeah.
In a lot of their later games, they have the same formula, obviously, so it's not just a boss rush, but the bosses come before the areas, as far as like their priority of design.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so whereas a boss is kind of like the cherry on top to an area in Dark Souls 1, it's more like the icing on the cake. Like the entire reason you would eat the fucking cake to begin with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like which it still works. It's just like you said, the areas aren't as interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure all those games are phenomenal. Sekiro is like that, and Sekiro I think is better than Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
But I think that I even though Sekiro is technically my favorite of these games, I think that I like Dark Souls 1 more. Like
Yeah,
I think Dark Souls 1 is more fun.
that's fair. It's so easy also to say that Sekiro's the best or anything like that because it is so disconnected from the rest of them.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh well, Sekiro has this over Dark Souls 1, but Dark Souls 1 has this. It's like they are
No, they're
literally
completely different.
entirely different games.
Yeah.
So obviously later in their games you can compare more stuff like with posture and Elden Ring and stuff, but it's like even still it's an incredibly different game.
Mm. But no, despite all of its flaws and stuff, I think that this game is a fucking masterpiece.
I'd be willing to call it that.
Like even with all the like rushed shit, it's unfortunate that this game was rushed.
Hmm.
Because we could have gotten like this could have been like a top 5 game for me if it wasn't rushed.
Same, yeah.
It could have been my favorite game of all time if it wasn't rushed.
I'd say if in a perfect world, I think this game. Hmm. In a perfect world, this game could have been like my 7th favorite.
Yeah. And the other thing about this game is like there's a lot of moments in this where like I was dreading playing it, like specifically after you get the Lord Vessel, all that stuff.
Right.
But what I took away from the game was more so all the stuff that I enjoy. Like I'm not thinking about how much fucking anger was inside of me when I was fighting Bed of Chaos and like going
Right,
through
no.
Tomb of the Giants. What I'm thinking about is like going through Undead Burg and Undead Parish, like getting all those shortcuts,
Yeah.
fighting all those bosses, and like just having a blast doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good fucking
'Cause
time.
honestly, the first half of this game is like the best game ever made.
It's it's like yeah, it's objectively up there. Like I don't remember which. I don't remember if it was a magazine or a website. But one of those things called Dark Souls 1, like the game ever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you're held to that high on a pedestal, it's like it's for good reason. You know, like they really knew what they were doing, and they just didn't have enough time to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah. And I can only imagine when this game came out and the only other thing they had to go off of was Demon Souls. Like, people must have freaked the fuck out about this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, Something else we haven't mentioned that I wanted to bring up was how good. I think the reason the pacing of the game worked so well in the beginning, at least, or really throughout the whole game, but especially in the beginning, is because you level up at the bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
All the other games have to go to some lady to level up.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you don't have
And
to
I
do it in
think-
Elden Ring.
Yeah, in Elden Ring, you know, that's something that helps with the pacing in Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I think that leveling up at one of the chicks makes sense in the hub world of Dark Souls 2 and 3 and Bloodborne. Not so much Bloodborne, actually, but because in those games, there's a lot more NPC stuff going on at the hub world.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Dark Souls 1, about halfway through the game, nothing else really can happen in Firelink, you know?
Yeah.
I think Logan leaving is like the last change that Firelink has.
Yeah,
Depending on
probably.
the order of which you do. But the leveling up at bonfires helps with the pacing, like, a lot.
Yeah. Especially since they had to do that for this game, because you don't have the Lord Vessel until
Right.
like halfway through it.
Right. But I mean, even if you could teleport the whole way, like, it feels better to level up, like, whenever you get there.
Yeah, honestly, I think this game would be worse if you could fast travel the entire time.
It absolutely would. It absolutely would. There would be so many shortcuts that wouldn't matter. The world design, you wouldn't even know how good it was. Which is kind of a problem that Dark Souls 3 has, because it does have good moments of world design, but it's like, you know, there's 10 enemies in between bonfires.
Yeah.
So you don't really get to. There's hardly ever a time in Dark Souls 3 where you feel threatened by an area where you're like, I only have 2 Estes left. I don't know when the next bonfire is going to be. Should I double back or should I just keep pushing forward and potentially die?
Yeah.
Like, there's never that moment in Dark Souls 3. You're just always like, unless you're just booty cheeks and like the first three enemies kill you or something. But in Dark Souls 1, that happens constantly. Uh, where you're just kind of hoping there is a bonfire eventually or a shortcut or something. Um, Something else that I think helps with the pacing of Dark Souls 1 is just having fog walls just in random spots. Because it kind of gets you a little anxious, you know? Like,
Yeah, because you don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, it's just a room.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which
Like,
I don't know if Demon Souls did that or not. Just have random fog walls around.
I don't think it did. I don't think so because a lot of the Demon Souls exploration was just cut off by the having to do the world stuff. But no, I think that helps the game as far as just the world building goes, or like how you interact with the world. I mean, it's also cool that like almost everything you do in Dark Souls 1, there's like 3 or 4 ways to do it.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Like whenever I started my playthrough without the master key, I was not dreading it, but I was not looking forward to going through Blighttown. But then of course I found the elevator to Valley of Drakes through the Darkroot Basin, and then I was able to get the key to the New Londo ruins, and then go back up to Firelink that way.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's awesome because that means there's like there's 3 different ways to get through Blighttown. You can go through the Valley of Drakes with or without the Master Key, or you can go through the Key to the Depths.
Yeah,
and it's really fucking cool.
I always love games where you can choose your path to like how you want to go about situations.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what was so refreshing when Elden Ring came out too, is that, you know, I'd go to work and I'd talk to Seth and Lucas and Josh about their play, and they'd tell me what they did, and I'm like, I didn't know you could fucking do that. I did something. I didn't know you could fucking do that.
Yeah.
Whereas when Dark Souls 3 came out and all my friends were playing that, we're like, hey, did you find... Yeah, I found that. Hey, what are you using? I'm using the same thing you're using. Like, it's still a really fun game because the gameplay is like the best it had been at the time.
Yeah.
But there wasn't as much... It was much more singular in how you would play it.
Yeah, Elden Ring is definitely much more exploration and like rewarding experiences kind of
Right,
stuff.
yeah. I think Elden Ring, obviously since it's an actual open world game, it does it to a higher effect than Dark Souls 1 does. But Dark Souls 1, for being not a linear game, but like not open world either, like super open, I mean, it does it pretty well.
Yeah.
And the best way me and Seth ever described Elden Ring, which is you can describe Dark Souls 1 in this way too, is that it's almost like a Pokemon game, where like a Pokemon game comes out and like you talk to your friend like, hey, where are you at? What are you using? And it's like it's a different answer every time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you're never gonna have 2 people have the exact same playthrough.
Yeah, games like that are always cool.
Yeah, I think so. So I had one more question for you real quick. What bosses... We've talked about their bad bosses. We've talked about pretty good bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Which bosses do you think are the most underrated in Dark Souls 1?
Here's the thing. I'm not super big into like the fan base and stuff, so I don't know what's overrated and underrated or what.
Sure.
I really like the Sif fight. Sif is probably my favorite boss, like conceptually. I think
Really? Okay.
yeah, she's really cool, especially after the DLC, where like you can find her and free her.
Yeah.
And I think you can even summon her for Manus, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's fucking
one of the
awesome.
coolest things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think...
And she's a gigantic wolf with like a fucking greatsword. It's so fucking cool.
Is Sif the only boss you can summon in any of the games.
I don't know about any of the games, obviously, because I've not played all of them, but
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if that
I'm
was the
pretty sure
case.
Sif is. It's also the only not humanoid summon, I think.
Yeah,
But Sif is fucking awesome.
yeah. The fight is like whatever, it's fine. It's not like a
Right.
bad fight or anything. I think that it's pretty
No.
cool.
I honestly I don't think there is many bad fights in the whole game.
Yeah.
I'd be
Uh,
willing to say uh I'd be willing to say Capra Demon is a bad fight.
that's
I
fair.
think I think people shit on it more than it deserves because it's like I feel like that's kind of a checkpoint in the game where the game's like, "Hey, are you using a shield? Because you should be." You know.
See,
Whereas I feel like, huh?
those are always my least favorite fights too, when they throw enemies into the battle with the
Yeah,
boss on top of it.
I agree. I think for the most part, Dark Souls One does a decent job with that. Like, obviously, the Bell Gargoyles are a really good fight for
Yeah,
like what it is. Um, Pinwheel's a fun fight because it's the first time, or it's not the first time because there's the one boss fight in Demon Souls where it's the chick in the church or whatever, where it's you basically clones that can be one shot
yeah, yeah,
just to deceive you. So that's not the first time that's used in the series, but Pinwheel, with it being as much of a joke as it is, it does its job. Um, let's see what other bosses. Ornstein and Smo, obviously, that's like the first time they do a two-time boss that like actually works.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That fight is
where
awesome.
like Ornstein and Smo is one of those things where like even if you have bad orange, probably still your fault when you lose.
Yeah,
You know, like it's their movesets complement each other so well, and it's so cool that the second phase is what it is with the one
yeah.
absorbing
It's
the other's
cool that you
power.
can choose which one you fight in the second phase.
Yeah, I think it's
Which
also really cool
has any
how it.
other Souls game done that? Where like there's two enemies
Yes,
and okay,
there is. I think to my knowledge, there's only one other boss fight like that, and it is in the second DLC of Dark Souls 3,
okay.
which that fight is really fucking cool. I can't wait for you to get to. Honestly, it's so funny. The Dark Souls 3 DLCs, like I'd say from I'd say the second half of the first DLC and then almost all of the second DLC in its entirety are like some of the best shit they've ever done.
I believe you.
Um, but no, Ornstein and Smoke's fight's really cool, especially when it goes from phase 1 to 2, and it kind of, for a split second, shows you who those people are. Because when you kill Ornstein first, it's like as soon as he falls, Smo just rocks his shit.
Yeah,
Like it's over with. But when you kill Smo first, Ornstein kind of, he gives him a second out of respect.
yeah.
He's because they were both Knights of Gwyn. Uh, which, speaking of Knights of Gwyn, just really quick, that whole lore between those two, Havel and Artorias, that's fucking awesome.
It is.
Um, I love when games have like a type deal. Um, it's just awesome.
It is.
Um, and then after Ornstein and Smo, the only bosses I'm pretty sure are Nito and Four Kings. Um, and we've already talked about both of those.
Yeah.
So, but no, Ornstein and Smo is really cool.
Would you like to talk in depth about Bed of Chaos?
I mean, we can. I don't. This is now the shit talking portion of the show,
Yeah.
where we will shit all over this game. Raised it for 2 hours.
You're cutting out again.
I'm sorry.
You fucker.
It's okay. Bed of Chaos just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about it.
Easily the worst boss fight they've ever done, probably.
Yeah. I was genuinely trying to think of another boss worse than them, and there isn't one.
Is Bed of
In my
Chaos
opinion.
the only thing in these games that Miyazaki has actually apologized for?
I think so. Yeah, it's terrible. I'd say the worst boss in any of the other games is not even close to Bed of Chaos,
Yeah,
to be honest.
that doesn't surprise
Um,
me at all.
it's there's nothing good about it.
Oh no,
Nothing.
absolutely not.
Um,
It's a it. The only thing you can give it is that it's a kind of cool concept. That like
yeah,
you're trying to fight the parasite that's inside the tree. That's kind of cool.
yeah,
Um, it doesn't work at all, but
I think a direct comparison to Bed of Chaos, where they did it better, where it's still similar, because people every time I hear someone talk about Bed of Chaos, they never mention Dragon God for some reason, even though it's blueprint the same fucking boss fight.
is that the one in Sekiro?
No, it's Demon Souls,
Oh,
the
okay.
Dragon God,
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
where you have to shoot the two things and then you can attack the headpiece. And it's
yeah,
like it's literally the same exact layout for the boss
yeah,
fight.
yeah. You're right.
Only Dragon God does it way better.
Yeah, and to be fair, that
Because
fight also kind of sucks, but
that fight
it is
also does,
better.
but that fight focuses more. I feel like the area of that fight is just better. You
Yeah,
know, where you have to attack through the rubble to get to where it is,
and
as opposed to
yeah,
falling off the fucking cliff.
and the thing about that fight is like you can actually like predict like what's going to happen. Like
Yes.
you know where he's gonna punch, and like
Yeah.
yeah, it'll kill you in one hit if he does while you're still there.
Hmm.
But you have a fair shot at it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Bed of
And
Chaos, you can just get no matter if you're blocking, if you roll, he's gonna hit you, and then you're gonna fall
yeah.
into that cliff.
Yeah. Uh, Whereas with Dragon God, like you said, you can tell where he's going to hit, and there's also pillars you can hide behind.
Yeah,
There's the only safe place in Bed of Chaos is the very first part of the arena where you fall into, because obviously the floor doesn't fall out there, and he can't hit you with his arms there, or she rather.
but she can Chaos
But she
Storm
can do
that
the
entire
yes,
area.
she can do
Yeah,
the Chaos Storm, which also, by the way, when I fought that boss, I'm pretty sure I had 25 or 26 to my health stat. Chaos Storm one shot me.
yeah, yeah.
If I
It's
wasn't,
bad.
yeah, it's terrible. Um, but no, I think that could have worked if they just either changed the area, or really, I think they just needed to make different attacks for her to have.
They had to
Um,
either change the attacks or make the ground not fall out,
yeah,
at
I
least to
think
that degree.
going back to the Dragon God comparison, I think with Bed of Chaos they could have had it be almost the exact same boss, but I wish they took more from the Dragon God fight, where it's like focus more on the area instead of like platforming, because platforming sucks in these games with or without enemies hitting you.
Yeah,
Um, it's just it sucks.
yeah. You know what they could have
Also,
done is they could have had her like crawl around and stuff, and
mhm,
if you could like kind of like the Dragon God fight where you have to smack the rubble and stuff, you could like smack the shit out of her arms and legs and stuff, and once she's like completely incapacitated, then you can go inside and get the
right,
parasite.
yeah, that'd be cool. Or really, I think the coolest thing they could have done, instead of having like a whole lava area with the fucking undead dinosaur things, which that area just looks stupid.
Yeah,
Um, Instead of having that, have the ruins be closer to the centipede fight, like where all the tentacle things are. And then after that, have like a small area, kind of like not as big as Crystal Cave, but something like that. And then just have that whole thing lead up to the boss. You
yeah.
know, like that's something I wish that some of the bosses in this game took from Demon Souls, because in some of the fights in Demon Souls, the arena is fucking massive.
Yeah.
And I think something like Bed of Chaos would have benefited from taking more inspiration from that.
Or that they didn't even have to make it a fight, really. They could have just made the entire environment be the Bed of Chaos, and like
Yeah.
you're kind of fighting the environment as you traverse through it, and then once you get to
Right.
the end, you smack the parasite and you win.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have worked pretty well.
And they could have
Like,
put like a fucking Witch of Izalith boss like in the center next to the Parasite or something. Like they could have
yeah,
done something like
they
that.
could have had it more like a Maiden Astraea type fight from Demon Souls, where it's
Yeah.
like there is the boss with the boss health bar, and that's the thing you need to kill to win.
And here's the
But there's
dickhead chasing you around.
yeah, here's the threat, you know. I think that would have worked a lot better for Bed of Chaos, but
Yeah.
that's not what they did. And I think they genuinely gave it 2 days to make that boss fight, and they were like, "Fucking send it to the textures team and let them just make it have color, and then we'll put it in the game."
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think that boss is like the most egregious thing they've ever done.
Yeah, it
Not even just
sucks.
bosses, just any aspect of any other games. I think that's the worst thing they've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always bullshit when like there's basically no way to avoid dying in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Seath fight that's fake, where he kills
Yeah.
you and then you like. I think that's a cool concept. But like, what if you walked in there and you had like 40,000 souls on you? You know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
theoretically you could get back up there and get them once you like
Mhm.
get through that. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a pain in the ass.
Yes, it's very annoying. Um, yeah, I think those are the only two instances in the whole game where you have, or you don't have to die, but you will die.
Yeah.
You know, um, and of course there's the speedrun strats for Bed of Chaos with the bow and fire bombs and shit.
Who
Um,
fucking is gonna do that?
Yeah, nobody. Let's be honest. Only speedrunners do that,
Yeah.
or people that like actually know how to do it. You know.
Yeah.
But it's very frustrating that the best way to handle your fight is a fucking weird speedrun strat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. To be fair, Bed of Chaos is the most egregious thing in the game, but nothing comes even close to being as bad as it in the rest of the game.
No, absolutely not.
Like, not even the
It's definitely
shitty
not.
areas come close to being as bullshit as that.
Yeah. Something I thought that was weird while we're talking about Lost Izalith. I think it's really weird how many bosses are on that part of the game.
Yeah, there
Um,
was a lot.
Because right after you beat Quelaag, you fight Ceaseless Discharge. And then pretty soon after that, you fight Fire Sage. And then right after that, you fight Demon Sentinel.
To be
And
fair,
then after you get the Lord Vessel, you fight Bed of Chaos.
yeah, to be fair, after you fight Quelaag, you're gonna be going back. I
Right.
mean, you can fight Ceaseless Discharge.
I'm just talking about
but-
how much distance it is between,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, like not necessarily doing it in that order, but like how little content there is in
Oh
between
yeah,
them
yeah, definitely.
on the path. Because it's really weird to, like, it's cool that there's more content with bosses, but it's really weird when the Catacombs has Pinwheel and then Nito. You know?
Yeah,
Like, that's a pretty big jump.
I guess that was them
Um,
compensating for the area just being fucking lazy.
I would imagine it is, especially since one of the boss fights is
It's
the
Fire
first
Sage.
boss with fire.
Yeah,
So, yeah. And then,
and the Centipede Demon is basically just a bunch of those things you've been fighting around that area, just taped together.
I don't know, Centipede Demon kind of has its own thing.
It does, but
It's definitely, it's one of the more unique bosses in the whole game, honestly. Because it kind of has a Taurus Demon legs, and then it has, like, the centipede body and stuff.
I just
it's
mean
a
like
cool
design wise, they probably just stuck like the centipedes together,
Right.
on like the dinosaur butt legs.
Yeah. But yeah, you have stuff like that where the Catacombs, it's just Pinwheel and then him. Then you have the Duke's Archives, that's only Sith. Seath, I mean,
Kate Sith.
Kate Sith, yeah, you fight Kate Sith. No, it's just weird to me that that area is only... Now, it makes sense in the scope of things, because obviously all of the golden fog walls that you unlock with the Lord Vessel, they all only have one boss before them.
Mm-hmm.
But it is weird, or after them, I mean. But it is weird that Um, that area only has Seath, and then the catacombs only has him. Um,
I don't
same thing.
I don't
Same
mind
thing
that,
with
but it
New
is
Londo.
weird.
I don't mind it either. It's just like you said. I think it further shows how lazy of an area Lost Izalith and Demon Ruins is.
Yeah. The thing that pisses me off, you can probably how far can you get to Bed of Chaos before you have to turn back because you can't fight it?
I'm pretty sure it's all the way up to the fog wall.
Holy shit. I would be
I'm pretty
so
sure.
fucking mad if I went all that way and then I had to turn around and go back. Because you don't have the Lord Vessel yet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
It's I can't remember. It's either that or it honestly could be the Demon Fire Sage wall. It's kind of hard to tell in the cutscene where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now that I'm thinking about it, it might actually be Demon Fire Sage where the golden wall is.
So you're a liar.
I am a liar. Am I a liar or am I just misinformed?
You're both.
Damn. Either way, it's strange to me how many bosses are in those areas.
Yeah.
Um, which like you said, it's not an issue. I don't dislike it. It's more content, but
It is weird that it's the only area that's like that.
yeah. Because I feel like when the game kind of pushes you in a way to do the areas in the order that most people do them in, it's weird that only one area has like all bases loaded with bosses. You know?
I guess lore wise it makes sense because that's where all the demons are coming from.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, lore wise it makes sense. But I don't know.
Maybe they intended for you to go to that area last.
That's what I did. So I think the reason I did it last is because it's the whatchamacallit. It is the latest or not latest. It's the very earliest thing that I'm not reminded of in the game. Because when you get the Lord Vessel and you place it and it shows the golden fog walls disappear, you're like, okay. Like I said earlier with the NPC in New Londo, it said when you get the Lord Vessel, come back. So I went to him first. Next, I went to the Tomb of the Giants because I'd already been to the catacombs, and it's pretty clear to tell that that one fog wall is the continuation of that area.
Yeah.
And then but then I did the Duke's Archives because you can actually get to that golden fog wall really fucking easy when you're in New or in Orlando.
Yeah.
But the thing about Lost Izalith is that it has been so fucking long at this point since you've thought about anything in Quelaag.
Yeah.
You know, like, so, I mean, you can tell with it being a red area with the red ground and stuff that that's where it is, but it's, like, not on your mind at all to place the Lord Vessel.
Yeah.
No, Dark Souls 1's a pretty good game.
It is. It's
Um,
despite all of the stuff we've shat on about it.
yeah, in the shit talk section.
Where is it on your top 100 now?
It's number 19.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still respectable.
I think that it's number 9 on my list.
Let me see here. Yeah, it's
Yes,
number
number
19. The thing about it is that, like, I'd say my list is, it's not weird, but like there's no definitive part where like there's tiers past a certain thing, because I think after number 14 on my list, that's where the list kind of deviates.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Dark Souls 1 is one of those games where like it'll fluctuate on my list every time I play it. Maybe not anymore since I just did this super in-depth kind of playthrough.
Yeah.
And it's like I genuinely do like a lot, but on the contrary to how you feel about these games, I do prefer the more fast-paced ones like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3.
That's fair.
So while I can praise Dark Souls 1 for all that it does amazingly, it just doesn't play as good as the others.
That is completely fair.
So, yeah. Like, for instance, Lies of P is number 20 on my all-time list. because the gameplay is so fun and fast. But it's also only 20 because the story. It's a good. Don't get me wrong, Liza P has a good story, but it doesn't feel as like deep rooted as any of the Dark Souls games.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, I think
Maybe that's a game we'll do on tour at some point. Should you
yeah,
choose?
maybe we might do that. Dark Souls 1 currently sits at my second least favorite FromSoft game. That being said, um, Dark Souls 1, 2, and Demon Souls are all so close on my list that like they can change on like a dime.
Mm.
So it depends which one I think about the most recently, you know.
It's funny that it's your second least favorite one. It's my second favorite one.
That is funny.
Is your favorite one also Sekiro?
Yeah, Sekiro's still it's number 2 on my all-time list.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what number 1 is?
Red Dead?
Super Monkey Ball.
What is
No,
with you and these fucking Super Monkey Ball jokes?
It hits every time. That's
It is funny.
no, Red Dead 2 is still my favorite.
Yeah.
But no, I think FromSoft doesn't miss. I think all their games are fucking sensational. The lowest game on my that they've made that I've played is Demon Souls at 21. So I mean they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they definitely do.
And when they have the time to do it, they make really good games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they're probably the best developer out there right now.
Yeah, because what is that? Let's count real quick. 1, 2, 3. 4 out of my top 12 games are FromSoft games. So, and if you want to get more in depth, would it be 7 of their games are my top 21? Literally a third of my top 21. So
They're just so good.
they're very good. And I'm excited to talk about the rest of them eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Dark Souls 1. I think it's good. I think it has its problems, but the good definitely outweighs the bad, like 5-1.
Definitely, yeah.
This last playthrough made me appreciate things I've never even. And it has solidified my opinions on what is actually bad in it.
Yeah.
So,
I almost liked the game less after this playthrough, but towards the tail end I just started having fun again. Like I did the DLC after I did like 3 of the Lord Soul things. I think I did Nito last. And after I started the DLC, I was just having so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the DLC is great. We didn't talk about that very much, but
it's easily like 2 or 3 of the best boss fights in the game.
Oh, for sure. I think I think Artorias and I almost said NATO. Artorias and Manus are both. I don't see any world where Manus and Artorias aren't in your top 3 for Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, Manus was a lot more fun than I remember it being.
Yeah, he's great. And he's the first boss I think they ever did where there's an item you can use in the boss fight that actually helps.
I didn't. What is it?
Do you can get the pendant from the NPC chick.
That's right.
Yeah, and you can block his projectile attack.
I didn't know that. That's
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It actually makes that boss. The thing about items like that in boss fights, it's like it doesn't make it any more fun, but it makes it feel like it's such a reward for finding it. You know, it's like it feels good.
Yeah,
you know?
It does.
It's like finally being able to use that one tool in your dad's toolbox that you've never seen him use. You know?
It's an interesting analogy.
Yeah. But no, the DLC is really good. I think one of the coolest things about the DLC, and it's a theme in all their DLC, much to like travel through time and shit. Um, it's really cool that the Darkroot Basin, like, there's a lot of it that's just the same, but it's
Yeah, it
in a
is
different
cool.
time period.
Yeah.
I think that's really fucking cool.
Where does this game rank from your FromSoft games story wise?
Um,
Because
that's
honestly, I
tough.
think this is the best one. I like Elden Ring a lot, but I think this is the best one.
It's probably 3. I can go back and forth between Elden Ring and this one. I think in the grand scope of things, Dark Souls 1 has a better story, but I think Elden Ring definitely has better characters.
It definitely has more meat
Like
to it.
like on an individual scale, like comparing Radon to Artorias or Gwyn to Radagon, like the lore of Elden Ring's characters, like on an individual status, is a lot cooler in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think as a story, it fleshes out a little better in Dark Souls 1, maybe.
Does Dark Souls 1 have the best intro cutscene out of any of the games?
Yes. For what it needs to accomplish, yes.
Yeah. I fucking love the intro to this game. It's so
I
awesome.
think uh I think Elden Ring piqued my interest more than the Dark Souls 1 intro, but I got more out of the Dark Souls 1 intro for sure.
Yeah, when it shows the four lords fighting the dragons and like the music is kicking in, it's so fucking cool.
It's very cool,
Like when
yes.
the witches are like weaving their tornadoes and shit, and the music's like,
Yeah.
"Roar!"
Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
cool.
It's very cool. Um yeah, it's weird to think about Bloodborne doesn't really have an intro. Uh Bloodborne kind of has like the old arcadey kind of intro where it's like, here's how cool the game is for like 45 seconds, you know, where it just kind of shows a cutscene, but it doesn't really reveal anything.
Mm.
And then obviously Dark Souls 2 fucking sucked.
Yeah.
The intro, I mean. Um,
The intro
and
was
then,
kind of cool, but it like literally didn't have anything to do with
yeah,
anything.
it means nothing. Um, and then Dark Souls 3, it's really just a worse version of Dark Souls 1's.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like literally
I really
every
don't
part
like
of
the
Dark Souls 3's is worse than Dark Souls 1's.
I really don't like the Dark Souls 3 one that much.
Um,
It's cool, but
yeah.
it doesn't hold a candle to the other
No,
ones.
you don't even have to say it's cool, to be honest.
I
Uh,
like the Ash Seeketh Embers shit, but
yeah, that stuff's cool. Um, but no, I think just Dark Souls 3 was trying too much to be like Dark Souls 1 as far as the
yeah.
but after that it gets its own identity. So
Demon Souls has a cool intro.
yeah, Demon Souls has a really cool intro. Bloodborne has a very similar intro to Demon Souls. Like I said, it doesn't really give anything away. It's just like, look how cool this fucking game is.
Yeah.
Um, but Demon Souls definitely is cooler.
With Bloodborne, are you talking about like before you get to the main menu where like it shows just like the guy
Yes,
walking
like
down the street?
yeah, if you sit on the main menu for a
Okay.
while, it'll do that. I'm not talking about like when you wake up the werewolf.
Well, there's one cutscene before the game starts where it's like, I'm putting you to sleep and you're going to see some weird things. Do you remember that?
I'd have to rewatch that. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
It's
Maybe
the
I'm thinking of the trailer for the game.
it's the guy that's putting the blood in you or whatever.
Hmm. Is that the one where all the messenger things are like on your body?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that is what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm thinking of. There's a different one I'm thinking of, but
I know which one
uh,
you're thinking of, but I don't think
yeah,
that it's technically the intro of the game.
right. That's not what I was. Yeah, you know what I mean though.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. Was there anything else you wanted? talk about with Dark Souls 1?
I think we pretty much covered everything. There was a few like little things that I didn't get to bring up, but it's like not important. Like I had one note that the Titanite Demon Arena in Undead Parish is cancer.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Titanite, though. Mentioned when we were talking about
Oh
the
yeah,
Kingseeker Frompt, how cool it is that you can break down materials to get the smaller ones.
Yes, that is cool.
I wish you could do that in all the games somehow, but you can't. I wish that while we'll just go on a Titanite binge real quick. I wish that the weapon toolbox and armor toolbox and all that shit was in every game.
Yeah.
That would be so much nicer to be able to do that at bonfires.
And it's so cool because you have to buy it to use it.
Yeah. Obviously, that's kind of it's not outdated, but it's unnecessary since in the other games you can just warp everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's still cool to be able to do it. It makes you feel more like a hero, you know.
Especially because
like,
Dark
look what I can
Souls, it doesn't give you like all the tools you need also, because you still have, if you want to modify your weapons, you still have to find the blacksmith that has the ember that you want.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't ascend it past whatever without going down.
Yeah. But it is especially the repair box is very useful.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I will say, Dark Souls 2 is like the only other game where repairing shit matters.
Yeah, and Dark Souls, I actually like the way Dark Souls 2 handles it more, because it gives you less durability overall, but it refills it once you rest at a bonfire.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool, because it encourages you to like try to plan out what you're doing and like maybe even use multiple weapons.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've definitely had playthroughs before where like I'll use like if you use a rapier or something, I think that only has like 20 durability or whatever.
Jesus.
Well, it's probably not that low, but it's it's low.
Yeah.
So then there'd be times where like I have to pull out an axe to like finish off an area or something, or whatever other weapon I was using. So
yeah,
it's cool.
That's one thing I will complain about in Dark Souls 1 is the repair never seemed necessary to be in the game other than to annoy you.
Yeah.
Because like the only situations where your shit is ever gonna break is if you're running around the lava in Lost Izalith.
Right. Yeah. Or
and
like
if you have a boss
weapon,
and if you have a boss weapon that you're using,
if you have a boss
ability
weapon, if you have crystal weapons, shit like that.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I kind of wish crystal weapons were more overpowered because of the durability.
Yeah, there's like no reason to use them.
Not really. So yeah, there's that. And then in Dark Souls 3, it kind of just goes the like way too far, where it's like you will literally never have to worry about durability.
Yeah, and then in Elden Ring, they just took it out.
Yeah, which they should have in Dark Souls 3, if I'm being honest. But they kept it in because there's still like crystal weapons and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really only matters in Dark Souls 1 and 2. And like you said, in Dark Souls 1, it's more of an annoyance than like an actual cool feature.
Yeah.
But
was there durability in Demon Souls?
I don't think there was, but the thing Demon Souls had that the other games don't was max capacity.
Yeah.
Like for your whole person's, not just your equip load.
I remember that.
Which that also, I don't think that is as annoying as Dark Souls 1 durability as far as the feature goes, because it just like you have the storage box for free.
Well, and in the remake, you can just send stuff straight to the storage box.
Yeah,
you couldn't do that in the original. I remember that.
True, yeah. But no, that's like that's not a feature I love, but it's not a feature that I hate either.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't hate Dark Souls 1 repair either, because like we said, you can buy the repair.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I just think that it's useless, other than to just annoy you.
It's just something you have to spend like a few hundred souls on every once in a while.
Yeah. And like if your shit breaks, you're like, fuck, now I have to go back to the bonfire and I have to get to fucking a blacksmith.
Right. Um,
Or can you repair broken weapons at the repair box, or do you have to go to a
I'm
blacksmith?
pretty sure you can.
Okay. It's just
Um,
expensive, I assume.
yeah. I think something else we didn't talk about was how cool leveling up armor is in Dark Souls 1, because it's really the only game where it matters. Um,
Yeah.
Same deal as durability in the games. It's still kind of important in Dark Souls 2, but by Dark Souls 3, you can't even do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
think
actually, it's not a feature in that.
I think this playthrough is the only playthrough where I've actually maxed out my upgrades on my armor.
I think I never grinded out materials or anything, so I think my helmet and my gauntlets were like +3, and then my chest piece and legs were both +5 or 6.
The nice
Because
thing
it's like,
about my build was that I had like um all of my stuff required different Titanite. So like my armor required twinkling Titanite, but by the time I got it, I already had like 15 fucking twinkling Titanites because I was never using them.
right,
And then Smo's hammer took demon Titanite.
nice.
And I don't think you can even level up the Mask of the Child.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Maybe you
I
can.
might be wrong though. Um, I don't. It wouldn't have any effect on the stamina recovery
Yeah,
though.
yeah. And it probably
Um,
would have taken like demon Titanite or something.
Maybe. Um, what was cool about the armor in Dark Souls 1 is that, like I said, I used the Elite Knight set for pretty much like 80% of the run. And then I also, I don't remember where you get it, but I used the Ring of Steel protection. So, like, even endgame bosses, they were doing like maybe a quarter of my health for most hits.
Hmm.
It was really nice. It was just like tank shit.
Yeah, I've never really I've been doing a lot of strength builds lately, whereas I was
Hmm.
usually like a fast roll. Like I like dabbling with the magic stuff. Um,
Yeah,
but strength is so fun.
it is.
It's so fun to just like shrug off hits and then just fucking annihilate people.
Oh, yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
when I inevitably start a new save on Elden Ring to play the DLC, I'm gonna do a strength build on that.
Nice, yeah. I had a lot of fun my strength build on Elden Ring. Even if it was like pretty hard at times.
Yeah.
But it's a good game for it.
Well, that was a good conversation about Dark Souls.
Dark Souls 1 Remastered.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or
No, I think we got it all off our chest.
yes? Yeah, that was a good talk. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was.
I'm really happy that we're doing this because I've been wanting to do like a gamer tour esque thing where like
Mm.
I'm forced to play games because I have a problem where um I'll
Where you won't
start
finish
yeah
it.
I'll start something and I'll get like halfway through it and I'll just forget about it
Yeah,
unless it's something really short like DMC.
right.
So yeah, I'm glad that we're doing this.
Me too.
And I'm,
Me
I'm
too.
excited. I'm excited to see what you recommend next time.
Yeah.
But since I'm going first, the next game that we're going to play is going to be Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to keep in mind stuff that you have access to when I'm recommending games.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it would be a kind of shitty if I recommended something you'd had to pay like $60 for.
Honestly, I don't care if you ever do that. Just like give me a heads up.
Okay.
You know, because
And
I'm completely fine like buying games for this.
okay.
Uh,
And likewise, don't worry about me because I'll have it covered. Whatever you want
all
to
right. My
play.
next game we're gonna do a Call of Duty $150 version that comes with 30 seconds of extra campaign.
Yeah, we'll play 3 matches of the multiplayer and then have our discussion.
Yeah. It has to be the $150 version though, so you get the one multiplayer.
It's awesome.
No.
But yeah, the only thing that I'm a little bit deterred by with, and as far as games we can recommend, is length. Um, I don't care if like if you wanted to do like say like Red Dead 2, like I'd chug through it. I don't know if we would be able to do it in like a month.
Yeah.
But we can figure it out.
No, I think something that can help us do this is if we have I don't know about you. I don't ever choosing Red Dead or Red Dead 2 to do
You cut out.
I don't know about you, but I don't plan on doing Red.
You cut out again, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay. I don't think that a game like that needs to be done.
That's fair.
But I do think that if we do want to do a longer game, obviously not being those games, but if we want to do something longer, we can have a smaller episode in between.
Yeah.
You know, where like we could take 2 months to do that, but then we could talk about a game that took us like a week or something. You know.
I'm glad that you are okay though with buying games if you have to.
Yeah, I mean it's fine.
Are there any hard caps you want to put up now? Like say like if I wanted to recommend Undertale, is that something that you'll never play ever? Or
I don't want to say anything's off the table, but just be mindful of what you think my opinion of the game would be as far as having a really long discussion about it.
If we have if we have a revenge arc where we hate each other, then I'll pick Undertale.
Yeah, you do that, and I'll pick like NBA 2K18 career mode or something.
Well, here's the thing though: is like you can't really like. Well, I guess there's a career mode, yeah. I don't know.
Obviously, I wouldn't pick any like, multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Unless we both wanted to talk about something, like if we wanted to have a Fortnite or something. But
or our Helldivers 2 Levi episode.
Yeah, that'll actually probably, I don't know if that'll be a thing. It sounds fun though. I didn't play it enough. I feel like I could contribute. Well,
if we did do an episode like that, we'll have to actually play some more. Yeah.
I think whenever it works out in the time frame, whenever you beat all the well, I'll tell Josh ahead of time and we can get him to refresh himself, and then we can invite him for that one.
All right.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, we'll have guest characters on from our YouTube channel.
Yeah, whenever we know they'd be just as interested as us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some ideas for what to do in the future though.
That's good.
I'm excited.
I'm always looking for new experiences. So.
Yeah, my only question to you is, if it's something we might have like planned on doing a playthrough of, would you be okay with just doing it for an episode instead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I might end up recommending Prey at some point, even though it's a game that I would love to sit down and like watch you play. That's one where I feel like we'd both be comfortable doing a playthrough of that on our own.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about like Dark Souls 3, and another game that I had thought of recommending at first was Soma, because there's a lot to talk about in that game. But yeah, that's good to know though that we can we can kind of forfeit a playthrough for the sake of the podcast.
Yeah,
which I'm fine with, just because it takes so much time to do that.
Yeah, and we'll still do playthroughs at some point.
Yeah,
but like we still need to finish Final Fantasy VII. We need to finish that Walking Dead game.
Yeah, we do.
I need to get uploading on those, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, this part of the reason I wanted to do this is because it's a nice way to still do stuff and talk about stuff, but we don't have to I don't have to do like the whole editing thing.
Yeah, it's a nice bridge for content.
Yeah, and I like talking about stuff like this, so
yeah, it's pretty easy to do, especially if we're doing it on call like this.
Yeah,
and we don't have to like rearrange or not rearrange, but arrange shit.
Yeah, and we've been talking for like 2.5 hours, and it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No, it actually doesn't. That's something I was worried about before we started. Like when you were getting your mic up, I was like, is this gonna like, is this gonna suck? Like, I had that thought for a second, but
And then it doesn't always have to be 2.5 hours long. Also,
right. It's
but
yeah, well, like you said, we're not gonna have a requirement on how long we're gonna talk, and
there
then,
will be no promises on when these will get made. There will be no promises on a set schedule.
No.
I bet we could probably, like, I don't know about you, but Ratchet and Clank is a game where I'm probably gonna beat like in 2 days.
I don't remember. I don't know if you remember this, but I beat that in 2 sessions.
Yes,
No,
I remember.
Yeah, 2 sessions at your house.
I remember.
So it should not take too long.
So yeah, this is one where we could probably do another episode like 2 weeks from now or so, or whenever you feel like doing it.
I'd be willing to bet we can do it when I combo breaker at the end of the month,
All right.
if not before combo breaker. But I'm gonna be playing a lot of fucking Street Fighter in the next few weeks.
Fair enough. And that'll be fun to talk about too once you get back from that.
Yeah, I'm actually very yeah. We'll just do the Ratchet and Clank episode after combo breaker, so I'll have more to talk about.
All right.
Because I am very excited for all the announcements they'll do then.
Well, that'll be awesome.
Yes.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and end it here.
I think so.
Yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I don't expect for this to get any more traffic than our YouTube channel, but in case it does, check out our YouTube channel, Jerry and Gary Incorporated.
Hell yeah.
Once we do a few of these, I think that it's pretty easy to put these kinds of things on Spotify, so I'm probably gonna try to figure that out.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It would be a way to get it spread out.
Right, yeah. I like that.
But yeah, and if we do ever get people watching that aren't like Levi, we can do it. We can do like questions and stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah,
it's still early
fun.
on.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, it was nice talking to you, Donovan.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, I'm ending the recording.